All right, guys, calling select board meeting to order. Just gonna go over the agenda real quick. We have public comment in a few minutes. We have select board liaison and town manager reports. Oh, sorry, we're being televised on Comcast and Verizon. Rob is helping us in that small little room over there. And after select board liaison and town manager reports, we have Arbor Day proclamation with Chris Cole. And then we have a presentation, sorry, I don't have your name, from, for a community diversity, equity, and inclusion assessment, along with the Board of Library. So let me know if you need to call the meeting to order when we get there. And then we're gonna have a discussion and vote on volunteer appointments for Board of Health and the Retirement Board. Karen and I had the interviews earlier. And then, depending on the time, we have discuss and vote on hiring an independent investigator. It's a long one, but to statements made and actions taken surrounding the resignation of Jackie McCarthy. And then we have a discussion and vote on modification to Community Preservation Act, CPA, study committee to replace ex officio member of the Affordable Housing Trust Committee with an ex officio member of the Reading Housing Authority, and then future agendas and meeting minutes. So if anyone didn't sign in yet, that's okay, but we'd like you to sign in if you're gonna speak. So we're gonna have public comment in the room and then on Zoom. So if anybody would like to speak, please come up to the podium. And thank you, Nancy, and then we'll try to keep it to 2 minutes, please.
Nancy Doctor, 371 Pearl Street, Precinct 1 meeting member. I did want to address what's on the agenda later tonight for the Board of Health appointments. I actually have not been able to keep up with how many appointments and reappointments you've made of Kevin Saxon to the Board of Health. But what I have kept up with is the number of qualified applicants and resumes that you've actually rejected and have dismissed in order to keep a realtor on the Board of Health. There was a subject matter expert, then there was a physician, there were nurses, stellar allied health professionals. Most recently, Chris and Jackie Vask, you reappointed a realtor over a master's prepared epidemiologist with 30 years experience during the pandemic. Mr. Saxon is a very nice man. I don't think anyone would disagree, and he certainly would like to volunteer. He seems like he has a very good attendance to the meetings. But Mr. Saxon also, when he was a member of this board, made it very difficult for the Board of Health to pass tobacco regulations because it was bad for business. And when Mr. Saxon was a voting member of the Board of Health, he decided to eliminate all of the financial fines for health and food violations because it was bad for business. It seems like these are things that are bad for health. Now, I'm actually going to advocate that you not reappoint Mr. Saxon. You thank him for his interest and perhaps find a better board for him, given his background, maybe zoning. I think for most boards, having an interest in volunteering is quite sufficient. But I think everybody would agree the Board of Health is very different. In fact, your appointments to the Board of Health, I believe, are the most important appointments that you make. Now, I believe that our Board of Health should be with the most qualified individuals. And it actually could have been if it wasn't for this board reappointing a realtor. Now, I actually think what you should be doing is looking through all those applications and resumes, which are all public record, by the way. Anyone can look at the stellar applicants you've had. And I think you should do some mea culpas and reach out to those individuals. You might have to put your tail between your legs because most of them, if they didn't know, they now know that they were rejected for a realtor for the Board of Health positions. You might be doing some mental gymnastics right now thinking, how can you figure out reappointing a realtor, maybe making him associate and a non-voting member? And I'll tell you that's probably not a good idea.
If you could wrap it
Because-
up,
yes.
please.
Because your reputations are on the line. And what you're really gonna do is speed up the charter change that people have already been talking about. To remove the Board of Health appointments from this board and make it an election, the way most communities do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Melissa?
Good evening, Melissa Murphy, 97 Van Norden Road, town meeting member. Just 2 quick points. First, I'm hoping to see a discussion about water rates on an agenda in the near future. I would like you guys to examine the percentages between each tier. Also, as a town meeting member, we voted and agreed to look at Mr. Zeke's instructional motion when it comes to the inequity of the tiered system for condo complexes and multifamily houses. Second, I'm hoping to see the select board organize some sort of community session to help residents understand the substantial tax implications that could be coming their way with all the projects that members of this board are trying to push forward. Residents need to know what those numbers are gonna look like. We have Simon's Way, we have the senior center, we have Killam, we wanna join CPA. We have to remember that Killam is the only project that is on a fixed timeline. And if we don't get a supporting vote for that project, we lose multi-millions of dollars in reimbursement from MSBA. I think transparency is key when discussing all these projects so residents can make informed decisions when it comes time to vote. Thank you.
Thanks. Would anyone like to speak?
Do I have to come all the way up?
Yes, please. Yes, sorry.
Laura Stella, 347 Charles Street. It's really just a request. I've been trying to attend the senior center meetings and the Simon's Way committee meeting and the Killam meetings, and they're overlapping on nights. So I didn't know it's a request. I didn't know if it would be possible if the committee members can talk to each other and iron out a calendar so that residents can attend all those meetings, since to piggyback onto what was just said, there's a huge impact and a lot of activity in one particular area of town, and I just don't think I feel like we're at a disadvantage if we can't attend all the meetings and see what's put forth. So it's just a request.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room like to speak? John Arena?
Good evening, John Arena, Precinct 1, 26 Francis Drive. I know the board will take up later this evening the matter of the investigation into the circumstances surrounding the departure of one of your members. I did want to take each of you back in time briefly, reflecting on your own candidacy and your own appointment to this board when you pledged commitment to the town's charter and bylaws, and in doing so, to obvious transparency and accountability in all that's done by this board. As a former member of this board, I know those words carry meaning, and I know, however, that the delivery against those is usually a political or another event such as the one in front of you tonight. It's antithetical for board members who previously proclaimed fidelity to transparency and accountability to say or suggest that the group should pause, should defer, should wait, or that it's not worth the money. This problem has cost this town already. We now have a special election with its costs. We have almost lost a wonderful town manager candidate, but for the actions of the remainder of this board. There's something wrong here. And if recent news in the last days has truth, it runs through this board. The voters are owed an answer. This is not about you. It's about us. 12,000 or so voters in this town. We're owed result. Where the findings, the facts, and the determinations discovered independently, and the cost to fix it is irrelevant compared to the other factors that this town will spend money on. I can think of only one personal motivation that would cause any member of this board to oppose an investigation, and it's not a pleasant contemplation. It'll be easy for all of us to see as voters what transpired and to take note of what changes are necessary. But that'll only happen if this board remains true to the goals of transparency and accountability.
Thank you. Would anyone else in the room like to speak? Seeing none, last call. Okay, Caitlin, anyone on Zoom?
No one raising their hand.
All right, thank you. On to liaison and town manager. Chris?
Thanks, Carla. I know we all had the luxury of attending the pickleball event the other day over at Reading Memorial High School. I know Jackie was there taking lessons. Mark, you were there. Carla was giving lessons. People were teaching me a lesson there. But the point is that everybody came together on a sold out kind of event like that and got exercise, and there was all different age groups represented. So it's good to see something like that bringing the community together. And then the school committee met, they had their meeting. They try to meet once a year at Metco headquarters down in Boston. And Reading residents ended up going, some Boston residents obviously were there as well. Curtis Martin gave a presentation and update in Metco program that he's running here is being used as a model for other communities to kind of piggyback on. So kudos to all them for doing that. And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. Mark?
Thanks, Carlo. So there's a lot of activity surrounding discussions about the senior center. Both the Council on Aging and the group called Recalc that reports into the Select Board have been meeting, seems just about weekly, and I think it is just about weekly right now. What's happening is we have identified 3 sites. We're reviewing all the information on the sites and now some estimated costs that have come in. The progress that we've made is to develop some site evaluation criteria that was done in conjunction with the consultant who shared with us what other communities use as a way to evaluate sites. We're not evaluating the inside per se, it's which is the right site to move forward with right now. We've also started to speak with the Permanent Building Committee so that we can get some of their input before a site would be selected to make sure that they've had their say on things also. There's a meeting tomorrow night of Recalc to move ahead voting on the criteria that we would be using to kind of finalize what those will be. In addition, there are a lot of meetings taking place with community members. All the meetings are open to the public, of course, but also there are some community member meetings and specifically some abutter meetings so that we can understand what the concerns are and then let the consultant and all of us kind of understand what those are and decide what we need to do to better address the concerns that have been raised. A lot of the information is getting channeled back to the consultant for further consideration and perhaps even further studies that may need to be done before we progress with that. The activities going forward, we will hopefully be at town meeting with a table outside of the room, so in the Performing Arts Center, but outside of there, to show what these proposals are looking like, and again, to encourage more public input into that process. There are no decisions that have been taken yet. Town meeting is not having any discussion about it at this time. The process ideally is going to happen over the summer, that a site gets selected, gets recommended, and that's brought back to the board for discussion, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Recalc is scheduled to sunset at the end of June, so there's a little bit of a fire to move ahead on that activity, and or the board may want to consider changing that date. That's the other option that's going on. And that's the key activity right now.
Thank you. And is where is the meeting tomorrow night?
It's here. Do I know where exactly? It's probably in the conference room, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
And then there's a tour of Killam on Thursday as well.
Yeah, so it's a tour Thursday, yeah, and then also on the 27th, the Saturday, there's a tour of the senior center, tour of the Pleasant Street Center.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Pleasant Street Center.
That's what I meant.
Yep, I'm gonna do those first. Yeah, so there's a chance to see kind of what's going on at the center now. Members of the Council on Aging can take you through the building to see what's happening. Understand the needs that we're not able to meet right now and why it's so important that we, with priority, get on to the senior center, a new senior/community center. We're actually calling it a center for active living. That was the charter that the select board created to start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen?
Sure. The Killam School Building Committee did meet last night and the project is really ramping up. And I would encourage everyone to come to Killam tomorrow night at 7 p.m. If you have never seen the interior of Killam and some of the concerns that the school department and the educators and parents have had, tours will be offered at 6:30. So definitely, this is tomorrow night. They will be showing site plans and potential drawings of buildings and where they could be sited on the property. And we'll also touch upon how a full school district-wide pre-K might fit there or not. So definitely looking for community feedback and engagement, and parking is coming up every single community discussion. So again, you'll see options for alleviating some of the traffic issues that people have been experiencing for years. So definitely encourage you all to come Thursday evening at Killam at 7 or 6:30 for a tour. So, one of the things that this board and other boards need to start thinking about or be aware of is that the Killam School Building Committee has asked MSBA if we will be in danger of losing our project reimbursement if we don't pass MBTA communities. And I don't really think anyone can give us a clear answer, and we've not gotten a clear answer. It's too early, but it's not too early for us to make sure that we are paying attention and aware of this. So that would be devastating. So we still have time between now and the end of the year to get all this sorted out, but the question has been asked and there's no definitive yes or no, and certainly if we get an answer, we'll let you know, but I don't know that we will anytime soon. Okay, so the next big milestone, I just wanna let folks know, I understand we're starting to get some cost estimates out of the feasibility study for the senior center. We're gonna start getting some big picture, high level cost estimates for potential Killam School configurations. We will have a submission due for the MSBA on May 20th. So, things are definitely moving around, and we'll get a bigger picture of, what that is gonna mean to the community. I was in touch with Seth Moulton's office. They have been planning some district visits. Rep Moulton, of course, helped us with a major contribution to the MVP solution at Mallet Soames Morgan's. His office has proposed May 20th. They would love to meet with Matt and meet with us and anybody else. So if we can get that scheduled, we can get back to them, and so they would definitely love to come for, I don't know when we'll have a celebration or an opening of that project. So they threw out May 20th, but if that's not the right date, we'll find another one, but certainly.
Yeah, sure, I'll follow up.
And then I just wanted to mention, I don't think we've met since we had the last inclusive gathering that was put together by many members of the community. Was it last Monday, after the bomb threat? And I just want to say again, what a wonderful last minute, event was put together with not a lot of time and amazing performers and thoughtful discussion and presentations, and I really enjoyed it, and I just want to thank everybody for doing that again. It was a very positive evening, after a long week of stress. So thank you.
Thank you. I echo Karen's sentiments. I stopped by and Everyone came out in the cold. It wasn't the best weather, but it was a really nice event. And to Chris's comments, I had the pleasure of volunteering again for the pickleball fundraiser event for the Reading Pickleball Players Association that was held at the high school. It was sold out. There was 2 sessions of lessons. Mark didn't want me as instructor, so I acquiesced. And those were full, and we had open play for 2 sessions as well. It was a long day, 8:30 to 4. And then we had a nice celebration afterwards at Bertucci's, and it was a great day. A lot of fun, Hopefully, we'll have it again next year. And Simon's Way Exploratory Committee, we're pretty much done. At the last meeting, with Jackie's help, we finalized our slide deck with all the final input from the members, just a few tweaks. That was just our final look. And we're all wrapped up, so we'll be presenting to this board in the coming months and, sunsetting that committee. And I think that's it for me. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, so the recalc meeting I checked marked, and it's 6:30 in the burger room.
Thank
So
you.
the small room down there, so. And I too attended the Rainbow Rally in the Common. It was a great event, thanks to Albert, who's here tonight, that put that together, and his team. I also attended the Pickleball Community Day, and was able to draw the winning raffle ticket, which was which was an honor for me, and it was a great event too. A lot of people participating. I'd never really seen pickleball before, but it was good to see how it was played. And I just want to mention there's several jobs on our town website. We posted several jobs over the last few weeks. So some of them are assistant town manager, tax collector, 2 planners, including the economic development planner, and several DPW positions. So we have a great team here at Town Hall, and if you know anybody or you want to come and join our team, please go to the website, feel free, and send in your application. So we really want to hire those important positions. So. And I think that's all I have for tonight, so thank you though.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Next, sorry.
Thanks, Carl. Matt, real quick,
Yep.
for, just maybe for next meeting, or unless you know now, what is the deal with all the potholes? When does the DPW start actually filling these things, do you know?
Fairly soon, I know Chris.
We're out there every day.
Chris Cole is.
So it's actively going on, it's, because I know that there's only a time in a month that you can do stuff or something like that,
No,
so.
we
Secret
fill
fix.
potholes all winter, year round.
Oh, really?
So we're out there every day.
Okey
So
dokey.
if you know specific potholes, let us know.
We're gonna put one in right now.
Secret fix, yeah, it's just that time of season, when you see more of them opening up, so.
Yeah. All that rain didn't help.
No, rain and freeze and.
And then, do we have an ETA on Verizon going on the water tank?
No, I'll check with Ryan on that. I think we're all set in terms of the contracting. I'm not sure when they're gonna install the apparatus though, so I can check on that. Yep.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, thanks. Chris, now we have an Arbor Day proclamation from our DPW director, Chris Cole.
Yeah, sure.
Proclamation.
Is the board gonna read it, or do you want me to read it, or what would you like me to do?
I have the proclamation.
Okay. You can stand at the podium, Chris, if you feel comfortable.
Oh, Chris, go ahead, sorry.
Proclamation Arbor Day, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and that this holiday called Arbor Day was the first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of precious topsoil by wind, water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our town increase property values and enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and whatever they are planted are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas Reading has been recognized as Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for the 39th consecutive year and desire to continue its tree planting ways. Now therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Reading, Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the Town of Reading and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations, the Select Board of Reading.
Thank you, Chris. Anything to add or?
No.
Like trees, we still like trees. We like trees.
No, thank you, and I apologize, I forget this from last year, I know we do it every year, and thanks for coming.
Oh, no problem.
Did we get anything for the 40th anniversary?
I'm not sure yet.
So
We'll see next year.
yeah, so kind of tree related, I ran into Chuck Tyrone today, and the pollinator garden has been seeded, I don't wanna say planted, but seeded over at Castine. So it's gonna take a few years, but that was good to hear that that got planted by a resident, by the way, all by himself. So kudos, and so we'll see that bear fruit in a couple of years or less.
And actually, while you're here, I have been down to the town forest and like the walkway looks amazing, like everything's coming along, the parking, I can't wait, like it's great. And so now there's actually gonna be a safe place to walk along to get to the town forest, so good job, glad to see that happening.
Great.
Thanks. All right. You said anything now, or we?
I don't have the
You have to move to accept the proclamation
Okay.
and then
Should
have
we
a vote on
motion?
it.
Okay, sure.
Move to accept the proclamation as presented.
Second.
Second, any discussion? No? Person, all those in favor? 4-0, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll have that for you to sign.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, now we have, I wasn't able to open it earlier, but we have a presentation from, I don't know who.
It's Dr. Iris Bongill, and she is here to present our community needs assessment. Actually, Albert may be coming up to introduce her.
Alright.
So, over to Albert.
Good evening.
Mike.
It's good to be before you again. Again, good evening for the select board members and Reading residents. My name is Albert Pless, Director of Diversity and Inclusion here for the town of Reading. I'm excited to introduce our consultants that have been working with us for our Reading's first DEI assessment over the past year, or correctly, the next 9 months. But before I introduce them, I want to give a big thanks to you, the select board, our town manager, for your support and encouragement as I've onboarded myself for the last 6 months. So it feels like it went by pretty quickly. So thank you for support around that. As I mentioned when I came before you in October of last year, supporting this work was going to take bold leadership. And that's been provided. I've seen that, and that's really great to see. I also want to give a big thanks to our community members, those who are here, those who are virtually, for their enthusiastic support for our work that we've been doing, particularly through our work in PAIR, Partners in Inclusive Reading, and other community initiatives. You referenced the work that we were doing last week, which unfortunate we had to pull that event together, but that just shows how we're going to come together in Reading if any one of our members are harmed in any kind of way. So this work that is going to be coming for you for our consultants was commissioned about a year ago through some funding from the previous town manager and the previous DI director, along with the library's funds. There were no, just to be clear, there were no public funds, no Reading tax funds that supported this work, this assessment work. Again, thanks all that was involved in this. This assessment and this findings that you're going to hear shortly is just the first step in some long-term commitment that Reading is making, or that we're going to make in regards to making us the most inclusively and socially just town that we can be. As our consultants will show you with their recommendations, and they're broad, it's up to us in Reading to prioritize those recommendations and to apply them. So that's the work. So it's kind of teeing us up for the work that we're going to do next. So I hope you join me in getting behind this work. Again, it's going to take a team effort. And again, I believe we can do it. I've seen in short period of times what we can do with less time. So with the runway clear for us, there's nothing we can't do. Opportunities Consultants works at this intersection between community, policy, and research. Their mission is to foster equity and improvement through education, workforce, and community services. As catalysts for transformational change, they collaborate with schools, school systems, municipalities like ours, organizations, and philanthropists at the national, state, and local levels to address systematic barriers in accessing high-quality education and economic opportunities. They work together to drive impactful transformation through equity assessments like the one we did here, strategic planning, program design, and implementation, and advocacy, kind of all rooted in a collaborative approach that prioritizes stakeholder engagement, which they've done through this project, and you hear some of that in the methodology, and through diverse partnerships and inclusive strategies. In the bidding process, their proposal beat out a very impressive list of potential consultants. Okay, I've talked a lot. So I want to bring up the CEO of Opportunities Consultants, Iris Bond-Gill, to give you our findings and recommendations from our DEI assessment.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, members of the Select Board, Town Manager, members of the public, both here and watching from home. My name is Iris Bond-Gill, and I'm CEO of Opportunity Consulting, and it has been a privilege to work with the town of Reading over the last 8 or 9 months. So I'm here today to present to you about the project, which was this community needs assessment, and share with you the findings and recommendations. And then, of course, take any questions that you might have. So it's okay if I say next slide?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do that. Awesome. First, let me introduce Opportunity Consulting, and I think Albert already did a great job. We, as he said, we work with communities like this, municipalities around the country, and we do this work from a very research-based standpoint. My name is Iris Bond-Gill again, and I am really glad that I had the opportunity to lead this project as the project director and as CEO of Opportunity Consulting. But I would be remiss not to mention that it's actually a team of people behind me that really carried out this work. And so David Cully, Dr. Nardos Gabri, Milady Ortiz, and Ananya Sharma were really responsible in large parts for carrying out the qualitative and quantitative research that went into this work, as well as the quality assurance and project management. We do have a report that will be out by the end of the month, I believe, and however you all do it on your website, etc. So what I'm going to do is sort of present an overview, but the report will provide many more details. Next slide. So our work, we like to say we have a bias to action. And so when we think about these community needs assessments, we really go into it with the lens of how do we create actionable recommendations? So really try to get a bearing and understand the work. We work with municipalities around the country and public agencies. This is just a sampling of a few. We wanted to share that we've done some work in Massachusetts. We did the community needs assessment in the town of Arlington, also in Burlington and Winooski in Vermont, so kind of the New England, but also around the country as well. So we have California, DC, and Boston public schools on the list. Next slide. And before I get started, I did just want to thank the folks who really, from a perspective of a community needs assessment, of course you need to hear from the community, and so we had that a lot here in the town of Reading. So before we go into the methodology, I did just want to stop and say thank you to the select board for the support, to the town manager, the past and present, and to the DEI director and to Amy in the library for all of the work that they've done to facilitate this needs assessment. We oftentimes say we have expertise in the process of this work, but you all are the experts in the context of your town, and so without you, we certainly could not do this work. And then also, you saw that we do this work around the country, but and these are issues that municipalities really grapple with all over the country, but not every municipality takes the courageous step of commissioning a study like this. So I do want to commend the community, commend the select board for the work that you did to open up your town, ask a third party to come in and provide findings and recommendations like this. So next slide. In terms of an overview for the project, we were asked when we initially came on to think about how can the community create events and services that are more accessible and equitable to the public. And so that was really the lens and the kind of research question we used when we came into the work. And then I'll describe the methodology we took and then move into the findings and recommendations. Next slide. Before I get into the methodology, and this is a part of our methodology in some ways, it's really about our approach to the work. One way to think about and illustrate a principle that we use when we think about this work is that equity is not a zero-sum game. So to us, when we think about this work, if one person has something that's equitable, it doesn't mean someone else has less. Really, it's sort of an expansion of justice, if you will. And so the curb cut effect really illustrates this and exemplifies it in many ways. About 50 years ago in the 1970s, there weren't a lot of curb cuts. There wasn't an ADA compliant situation. And so disability advocates came in and said, we really need to think about how to make sidewalks and streets more accessible. And through that work, they created the ADA and curb cuts. But what we know about curb cuts is that it didn't just help the disability community. It helped everybody. And so the idea is that when you design at the margins, when you design for those who are most marginalized, everyone benefits. And that's a principle that we bring into this work. That if we do this work well and we design it well, the whole community benefits. And so it's not a zero-sum game. So people with strollers and bicycles and folks who have a hard time lifting a leg all benefit from curb cuts, even though it was designed for the disability community. So just wanted to share that. All right, now we'll move into our methodology and how we approach the research. Next slide. We use a proprietary method that we developed called the outcome-led equity approach. And so what we do with outcome-led equity is we start with data and we really ground ourselves in the data of your town. We say, where are the gaps? Where do they exist? Who's represented in the data? Who's not? And we do a deep dive into that data as a starting point. We emphasize local context and stakeholder engagement. All of our work, we really think those who are experiencing the challenges should architect the solutions. And so all of our work really centers around how do we hear from those who may not normally have a seat at the table. And we work really hard to set that table and allow people to come in and share their perspectives and experiences. Next, it's a focus on the possible. This isn't always easy work. It's certainly not easy to think all the time about gaps and problems and things like that, but we really bring a lens that through this work, improvement is possible. And so it excites us, we're optimistic about it, and I think that's part of our approach as well. And then finally, how do we ensure that everything we do, and we are researchers, but we want to make data accessible to the public and to the community, and that's at the forefront of how we think about the work. Next slide. All right, this might be a little small, but what I'm going to do is walk you through a little bit of our roadmap, just so you have a sense of how we approached the work here in the town of Reading. So we started with demographic and historical context and data from the U.S. Census, from a town employee survey, and from a general town of Reading survey. That community survey was open for about 5 weeks, and we received close to 700 responses from town residents and community members. We also had a workforce engagement survey that received 141 responses, and that was from the town workforce, so folks who work in the town of Reading. And then we did interviews, and these interviews were with community leaders, community-based organizations that work very directly with the community, and members of the team who were in leadership roles. The former town manager took part. So we did about 19 interviews, and then we held 4 focus groups. And those focus groups were, one group was with residents that identify as Black, Latino, Indigenous, and other people of color. One was with older adults or seniors Another was with Reading High School students. They were students of color, some were Metco students, some were not. And a group that we called an intersectional group, which was basically anybody who wanted to take part in this group that may come from a marginalized background, either maybe a faith-based or disability or LGBTQ+, etc. So sort of a intersectional community focus group as well. So those were 4 focus groups that we had in addition to the 19 interviews and a lot of surveying and community data. Additionally, we had bi-weekly engagement and meetings with Amy and Albert and the team to ensure that we were always touching base. Again, you all are the experts in your context, so doing research, reading, keeping abreast with your news, watching your select board meetings, but also touching base with them. And then we worked with the pair group and an implementation committee, which was what we called it, which were members of leadership roles in the town workforce. And so we kind of had different touch points with different groups. The implementation committee meeting, that was monthly. The pair meeting, I think we met 3 times over the project, and then bi-weekly with the project team. Next slide. All right, so that's the part you all want to know. What did we learn? So what we learned may not be a surprise to many of you who've lived here and work here and are here all the time, but we think it's worth putting out, and of course this provides you all data that you need as well. So our first 3 findings on the screen here really highlight 3 key areas: the need for more affordable housing, a desire for diverse representation in town leadership, and the community's concerned about accessibility and inclusivity of public infrastructure and events space. So for the first, housing options, prices, and cost of living, particularly from what we heard for seniors and for town employees, is too costly. And so we heard this from 66% of respondents for the workforce survey indicated that they do not live in the town of Reading, and a huge reason for that was cost. And this was not only young employees, only 25% of the 25 to 45-year-old age group that work in the town live in the town of Reading, but also 55 and older age group of town employees also said they don't live here. And so that was also a lot attributed to cost. We also heard that seniors and older adults face infrastructural limitations in terms of housing options and their ability to age in their homes. And we'll talk a little bit more about this when we do recommendations as well. In terms of finding 2, this was a lot of conversation with residents and including some Metco students who experienced diminished trust in town leadership to create changes and to address racial, ableist, and religious violence that may make them feel more vulnerable. So we heard school parents and residents talk about the need for more meaningful follow-up in the aftermath of discriminatory incidents in the town. And there was a lot of talk around including raising awareness and some educational strategies. For finding 3, the town leadership boards, meetings, committees, and town workforce are not diverse today. We know that to be the case. And yet diversity is necessary for representative government. And so this came up in almost every conversation in some way, the conversation around more diversity in decision-making roles. And so there was a lot of appreciation for the Office of Equity and Social Justice and for the role, the DEI director role, but that this representative voice could not just be in one role. So how do we step back and ensure that we have more diversity in our leadership? Next slide. Then we have 4 more findings, and these final 4 findings 4 through 7, I'll walk through these. Finding number 4 is public infrastructure and location of town events are not easily accessible to all residents. This particularly came up in the case of seniors and individuals with reduced mobility. That there were concerns of a lack of public infrastructure in the town and during events to support people with limited mobility, a limited reliable public transportation. This also came up with Metco students who said we can't always participate in events and activities because of limited transportation options that have to take us back. And oftentimes we heard that this prevents broader community building and support in public events. Finding number 5, community events might not reflect diverse groups. There was conversation about certain events that took place over the course of the year, Juneteenth, and there was Pride Parade and some other events that people felt really good about. And people did talk about wanting more diverse events that reflect their community, that reflect their cultural background, and finding ways that the events that take place actually do reflect those groups of the community. For finding number 6, communication on town events and services. We did see that the town has fostered dedicated efforts to improve communications channels, particularly through renewed website and reaching out to people who may not have digital communication means. And yet, we also know that communication is complex, right? And not everyone is accessing information the same way. And so this is just an area to continue to think about, that residents did talk about the desire to have a more centralized communication available to them, and even communication that could be that could come through some of the community-based organizations that they participate in. And I think that was the end. And finally, the 7th finding is more about the town workforce, and that there's limited exposure to diversity and accessibility in the town workforce. So on the really positive side, and this isn't something you see every day in the survey, 87% of respondents agreed they had the resources they needed to do their work, and 70% said they felt that their background and experience were valued by the town. And yet there was a feeling that people want to learn more about what it means to work with different people in different diverse contexts. And so that was something they felt like they didn't have a lot of exposure to. Next slide. I won't make you read these on the screen, but when we deliver our report, we will have some quotes and things like that. But for the most part, voices from our focus groups did emphasize the challenges that they face from housing accessibility, particularly for seniors, proactive stance against discrimination, and these insights really underlie how we thought about the recommendations. Next slide. So one thing that we do in all of our community needs assessments work and all of our needs assessments work is that we really try to recognize that oftentimes what we hear when we go out are more symptoms of issues, right? And so what we do is we want to dig in deeper and we want to understand what the underlying causes of some of those problems are. And they may be shared underlying problems. So we may have come out with a list of 11 findings initially and then kind of tailored it down to the 7. So many of you may have heard Albert Einstein saying, if I need to solve a problem and you give me an hour to do it, I'll spend the first 55 minutes understanding the problem and then the 5 minutes on the solution. So that's really our thinking here, is like, how do we deeply understand the problem and the findings so that we can move into recommendations? We did a workshop with community members in pair, and we also did another workshop with the implementation committee, and we kind of used a protocol to go through and get to those underlying root causes. And what we heard from those root causes were kind of a few themes that came out. You don't have to look at them all there, but they were themes around trust, leadership, communication, and housing. And so that's really what underlied how we thought of our recommendations. Next. So in terms of recommendations, I just want to say broadly, these are, and Albert said it as well, research-based recommendations, and they're broad recommendations. So they're not, the intent is not for you to vote on recommendations or to take them wholesale and adopt them. The intent is for you to really have a conversation around, okay, this is something that works in this town, or this is something that is being used in the neighboring community. Is this something we could do? Does this meet our context? Does this meet our financial constraints and all the different things, our opportunities that may already exist that we can tack onto? And so how we think of recommendations is, these are some research-based recommendations. We're going to lay those out in the report for you all. And then the next step is for you all to think, what meets our needs in the short term and long term, and how do we sort of think about building a strategy around this? So this is not a strategic plan, but it is some broad recommendations. So the first recommendation is to initiate feedback loops in the town services to create a direct line of communication. So we oftentimes think of communication as one way. And so I said there were some challenges with communication. Communication is complex, and the town has done a lot to build websites and to build ways to get information out. What we're suggesting is that there be a feedback loop so that communication comes back to the town from communities, so that communities can hear, so that, for instance, you may want to have, the way some communities do this is they might have an advisory board. And the advisory board may be community members that oftentimes aren't in other meetings, right? And so before you put something out publicly, you can send something to them and say, what do you all think? You can get their feedback, and it creates a loop for communication. It also builds trust, it builds transparency, and it builds buy-in. So we talk a lot about that in the report as a potential way to think about communication a little differently. Next slide. We talked about how there were issues with accessibility, and so we wanted to spend a little time talking about ADA compliance and how to think about this maybe. One is to look at following an ADA self-evaluation plan. A lot of communities do that, and I think you all have some part of that in the works as well, that would allow you to evaluate yourselves, your buildings, etc., on this, on a kind of thinking about limited mobility and cognitive needs. And then another area that we talk a little bit about is this idea of light touch density. And that light touch density, and there's a picture that illustrates that a bit. Light touch density is an example of how you can use existing structures and existing land to build mixed kind of use housing, so that you do have some additional density, but not high density. So you still have single family homes, but you also have a varied housing stock, and that varied housing stock is both current single family homes, but also a higher density as well. And this would also help Reading comply with the state's multifamily zoning requirements in a way that we also heard people, had concerns about too much density. So light touch density is something we go into in the report, and something the town may want to explore. Next. So this one might be tough. We understand there are structural barriers to how much you can diversify your boards, your meetings, your commissions, but this did come up. We know that that if you want to reflect diversity, you oftentimes need the people who are making decisions to be diverse, and this could also come up in that feedback loop. Even if the committees are not diverse necessarily right now, if you have a feedback loop, that could also help. But we did want to acknowledge that there are strategies and targeted recruitment campaigns, et cetera, that other places utilize to build a more diverse pipeline. We also heard that potentially people are reluctant to lift their heads and volunteer if they feel that that will make them into a target, and that there are situations that have maybe made people feel reluctant in that way. So, again, there's some targeted outreach strategies, diverse recruitment strategies, and ways to think about that, although we recognize the structural limitations of, the current demographic makeup of the town being the pipeline into your leadership roles. Next slide. All right. So this next one is about setting up a supplier diversity program. So as we think about events that reflect the community, and we think about who's putting on different events, we also thought about the fact that when we have more diverse suppliers, that is also an opportunity to have people who may reflect the community, may come from these communities, and also a way to ensure that you have a more resilient supply chain within your town. There's a number of groups that we can think of when we talk about supplier diversity that other neighboring towns and cities have thought through, and so we believe that this may be something that could help the town of Reading diversify your pool and pipeline of vendors. So the next recommendation is around enhancing the role of community-based organizations in town events. So we did have the privilege of talking to a number of leaders of community-based organizations in our 19 interviews that we did. And we know that many times those community-based organizations already have the trust of the community, right? They represent various communities, they have deep ties and connections to communities. So one of our recommendations is to think about how to bring community-based organizations into partnership as you're thinking about planning events, hosting events, and doing other service delivery models. These community-based organizations, other places, think about public-private partnerships, et cetera, again, can enhance trusted relationships, and trust was one of those root causes. So it's one of the things that we have on the forefront of our minds as we're thinking about the town of Reading and how you might move forward in some recommendations. There's 2 left, so stay with me. The next is to conduct a deeper dive into the state's town workforce. So we say that because this was really a community needs assessment, and most of the work we did was externally focused and community focused. And so we did not want to draw large assumptions from one survey with town employees. We thought there were some great tidbits and some ideas that came out of it, but we do recommend that if the town of Reading really wants to understand how to think about and build a diverse pipeline and recruitment strategies, that there be a more deep dive into the town workforce and thinking about that work further. There are, assessments that can go directly into that. There are additional surveys and tools that could be used. And so we thought that would be a good strategy and recommendation for you all. And then we did have one final recommendation also focused on town workforce, and that was to we know that there's been a lot of, and appreciate hearing the town manager talk about positions tonight that could be filled, and in a very open way, having heard from HR and other groups to say, we know there are a lot of strategies you all are already using. We do think that maybe the idea of co-ops and internships and maybe even thinking about partnerships with the community college could bring you more diverse pipelines. So we did offer some recommendations for that in the report. And this is, again, how do you build a diverse pool of candidates so that you can select the best candidate? But your opportunity to get a diverse candidate out of that pool increases certainly. So that's the lens that we brought to thinking about your workforce for diversity. And to conclude, you can move on. To conclude, I wanted to just say again, this is, Albert said it, one step in a larger process for the town. And so the next step is the report will be, I think, released. It'll be on the website, and everyone will have a copy of it where there are a lot more details around these recommendations. We hope that that'll be an opportunity for us to, have additional conversation with you all at that time. But I am happy to answer questions that you might have. I'll go to the next slide, I think is my contact information. So if anybody, any member of the public or anyone wants to reach out and have any additional questions that don't get answered tonight, I welcome that, and you can reach me at my email, or you can look at our LinkedIn or our Instagram. So thank you very much again for your time tonight. I look forward to hopefully engaging with you in a conversation. That's really what this is about, is having dialogue on how to best move forward your work and your goals. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board or comments?
Thanks, Carlo. So thanks for the presentation. I'm wondering what is kind of best practice. Oh, Albert, thanks for coming up here too. Perfect timing.
Sure.
How do we think about a next step? Is it starting some more community conversations? How do we take some of these ideas and kind of spread them out into the community further? I'm not asking you for the full plan, but I'm just wondering what the next steps might be to get it started.
Yeah, and I just jump in. I think Iris kind of spoke to what I opened up with. I think that we already have some good things in motion, right? So it's some good stuff happening. I think this community engagement piece, I think, is where we want to really lean into. So I think PAIR is really positioned well for that in terms of saying, hey, we have to lean into PAIR. These are these 71 members right now of PAIR that have a pulse of the community in terms of what, really how can we engage them to really be a part of the fold. So I think that's something we're being strategically focused on that. I think we're doing some strategic thinking around that. I think we're going to have to really, as Iris said, we're going to have to really do a little digging with the workforce side. I think we're going to have to just really get a better sense of, what we can do internally to kind of move some of those recommendations to action. So this is where, and I was sharing with Amy this morning or yesterday, at some point, one of our 15,000 meetings, is that we were talking about that, like, we're going to have to be very strategic over these next few months. This is, for me, a window of an opportunity right now for us to really do some amazing work, but we have to do it strategically and not just think about, like, let's do that to kind of like the Band-Aid approach, right? Let's not just do that so we can kind of feel good. Let's just do the deep analysis. I think we got folks on board. I think we're kind of ready. I think all the major players are on board. I think, and that's always a good thing. And I would say that's not always the case. Again, I would just share 30 seconds is that I'm with my colleagues twice a month across the state. A lot of towns have not moved to this place yet in terms of saying, let's move to action. Like, a lot of towns are still kind of putting their toe in the water. So I would just say we have an opportunity now. Sorry to be long-winded with that.
I would offer some other ideas as well. I think those are 1000% right. I think there's also some data here that you all have, and in the report there's going to be a lot more. So we don't have charts and graphs and all that, maps and all that, but we will in the report. But I think that if you think about the recommendations, you could have community conversations focused on each of those topics. If you thought about, like, how do we chunk this work? PAIR could be a great place to start for something like that, but it could also be a way that you're structuring a conversation around a topic, and then you're allowing people to come into that conversation, right? Maybe you're presenting, here's some of the data that we received, and here's some of the thoughts about how do we move forward with maybe some structured conversation that can happen around gathering people's insights. So it could be a way to bucket the conversations with community members as you think about how do we get this information out. And then there's also, ways that we talked a little bit about how to think about this work from the lens of it's all of our work. So when you think about the town, and there's indicators in here of findings and areas you may want to kind of incorporate into the work that you're already doing. So we talked about communications, there's some HR practices, but there's lots of other places that you could incorporate this into the work that you're doing. And so taking a pretty strategic view of that, is there low-hanging fruit? Is there work already happening that we can just kind of tack onto with some of the findings? I think might be a way to think about it next.
Any other questions or comments?
That was terrific. Appreciate this. Looking forward to getting started.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. All right, folks, moving on. We are to our volunteer appointment agenda item. Karen and I had the pleasure of interviewing 6 candidates for 2 different boards, 3 for each, one of them being the Board of Health, and the other one being the Retirement Board. And we all met with them virtually. They all explained to us why they wanted to be in that board or committee, and some of them are already on that board or committee as associates, so especially the Board of Health. So Karen and I, I say the 2 of us, it's a board vote, the 4 of us, but we, on the Board of Health, we kind of agreed, Karen's okay if I speak to that one? Okay. So Karen and I agreed to make Kevin and Joan Wetzel, Kevin Sexton and Joan Wetzel, full voting members, and Jerry, who's on associate member now, to remain an associate member. And I guess we learned over the course of 3 interviews that this would be a 1-year appointment and a 2-year appointment for Kevin and Joan as the full voting members. So we kind of got that information after some of the interviews, so we really didn't ask a preference. So I don't know, so I'll leave that one there. We can discuss that, and then I'll let you speak to the retirement board candidates.
Okay, sure. We also had 3 candidates, 3 great, 2 employees and 1 retiree. Appreciate the stepping up. They're all Reading residents. We don't appoint to the retirement board very often. We've actually had to learn more about it. We do have 1 appointment, and Traditionally, the select board has kept it at a 3-year term, although technically a term isn't required, but I think that just helps us stay in communication with whomever we appoint. Sharon Angstrom is always an officio member, and then the rest of the members are elected somehow by the retirees themselves. I might be messing this part up. So, yeah, 3 really good candidates. I sort of know where my preference lies, and I think Carla wanted to take a little more time to think about it before we met tonight, so I wouldn't necessarily have a recommendation right. Unless, how do you wanna handle this?
Yeah, I think, yeah, Karen said it well. We didn't fully coalesce on, it's one appointment for, one spot open for 3 candidates, so, and they all were aware of that, so we kind of didn't really formalize anything to present to you guys, so hopefully you've looked at the resumes and have looked at the applications, and you know, we can discuss on who you may want, if you agree with us on the Board of Health and not agree with us, or and the retirement board as well. It's tough always for me, you know, saying no to people that step up and apply. I know we've all mentioned that in the past, so we were able to work the Board of Health where all 3 got appointed to something, and we can't do that for the retirement board, unfortunately. So I know we're a board of 4, but we can pick one tonight, or we can not pick one tonight and wait till the election, unfortunately. So I'll open it up to discussion on either topic.
Why don't I, you know what, may I suggest you and I go first,
Oh,
since
sure,
we did
sure,
have
yeah.
the luxury of interviewing them?
Okay, yeah.
Great interviews, I appreciate all of the investment in the community these folks have made, and so my topic was for our library director, Amy Lannon, to join the retirement board, and not in the least because she came up with like all this enthusiasm and she's like ready to go, and that was adorable, and I know you got all A's in college. So, but you know, she's been the library director with significant budget responsibilities, and I do think that is very relevant for the retirement board. We learned there's about 20 hours of education that each member is required to go through, so all the candidates were willing to do that. You know, we talked a lot about diversity tonight, so the position that's open was held by somebody, Carolyn, I don't know her last name, long time.
Roberts.
Thank you. So she's stepping down. That would leave us, if right now that leaves us with 3 men and 1 woman. I would very much like to see the diversity remain on the board. And by, you know, appointing Amy, we can certainly make a good step in that direction. And it also, and I say diversity in a couple of ways, and Amy was good enough to point this out to Carlo and I, that we have, this retirement board serves union and non-union employees. So currently, we do have 3 other members who represent specifically police and fire unions. So again, getting to diversity of perspectives and being able to weigh in on and whatever advice and guidance they need to give the 2 employees. I appreciate that Amy recognizes that, you know, we have these non-union employees and we want to make sure that somebody is wearing a hat, you know, during these conversations to be able to make good decisions. So those are the reasons that I would love to put our library director forward for this position.
Thank you. So they all had great interviews, and so we have Amy Lannon, our current library director. We have Lieutenant Richard Barty, police officer, grew up in Reading. And we have Michael Holmes, retired firefighter, also a longtime Reading resident, and did a lot of service for the town. So my thought process was that there must be a reason that the majority of the board are retired, not retired, are police and fire. And I just came to that assumption that they're the biggest pool of people that are on that board, that have been on that board for a number of years. And not to keep status quo, but all 3 are qualified, all 3 committed to the once a month meeting and the 20 hours. So I was just weighing between Rich and Michael with not a definitive pick. So that was my kind of thought process, and we discussed that briefly, but didn't come to a consensus. So that's what we're bringing to you guys.
So thanks. I think that I appreciate the discussion in kind of both perspectives. I think that having kind of broad representation of kind of all retirees would make sense here. I think, was Carol Roberts, was she involved in HR before?
She was
in
the
town?
HR director.
She was
for
the
many
HR
years
director in town before.
Right.
Yeah, so kind of representing diverse interests, working with union, non-union. I think that really makes sense. I think that I'm also sensitive. I think it would make sense to have another woman on the board, frankly. I think that, I would support Amy to go into that role. I think that that's the right broad representation for the community. And that I would support Amy.
Would you like to talk about Board of Health now, since you're talking?
Oh, do you want to do one at a time? I mean,
Well, maybe make your comments on either one, and then have a broader discussion.
It sounds like you folks kind of came to some consensus in a recommendation. Am I hearing it
The
right?
one, to be clear, and I think you made it clear, but just to reiterate, one of the current associates has a demanding job with some travel, often zooms in remotely and would not mind remaining an associate, so that she did make our life a little bit easier.
And that's
Right.
Jerry?
Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
Right, she was very
But it's great, so we
very
are
flexible.
expanding the board by another
Yeah,
person
right,
and
yeah.
they'll have a bigger,
That
better
sounds,
quorum.
yeah, I'm comfortable with the recommendation.
Thank you. Chris?
Thanks, Carlo. That was gonna be my thing as well, with Jerry finding out why she was not going to remain, so, that makes sense. I understand the whole, diversity comment, Karen and Mark, with replacing a female with another female, et cetera. But, we just had, the town manager search come back with 4 guys. And I didn't hear that mentioned once by anybody. Why not? And here we are, we're gonna just mention it now, because
I just wanna let you know, I was saying it a lot in the background, how disappointed I was at the lack of diversity, alright?
but
you
it's
didn't hear
it's
me,
it's
I'm
I
just
didn't
saying
hear
it.
you, and it's
Fair enough. I was
definitely
definitely saying
different
it.
when you
Was
come out
definitely-
publicly.
Was definitely disappointed, we could have had a more diverse pool, it is what it is.
I love using it is what it is comments. I was hoping that you would come to a consensus so we didn't have to make the
Of
decisions.
course.
Yeah.
Well, we did, you get 50% there.
Because between all 3 of them, it's like 125 years in town. Like you can't separate these 3 people based off like anything, because it's 50-50 and like 25. So, so what is the current makeup of the retirement board? As it stands now, who is represented? How many people are there?
5 altogether.
Yeah.
Sharon, 2 fire and 1 police, 1 police and 2 fire. There's a couple of non-residents in there, they were employees, you don't have to be a resident to be on this board. It is right now, it is Sharon and all safety, public safety. So there's no, you know what I mean, it's kind of narrowly focused, but, and with, what was her name? They just retiring? Carol. So she did bring in some diversity from a couple of perspectives and making sure that outside of those 2 unions, there was some representation, non-union, and so if we go ahead.
So police and fire
Yeah.
are represented
Yeah,
on the
3
retirement
in 3
board already.
positions, yeah.
Because to me, to bring it, yeah, I'm not sure. So it's 4 people?
So right now we have Sharon Amstrom, David Gentile, Robert Beck, and
Firefighter, right?
and William Sweeney. And I know David Gentile is I believe a firefighter, and Robert Beck as well.
Yeah.
William Sweeney, I'm not sure what his background is.
So is police represented or not?
Yeah, I believe he's fire and police. I spoke to Carol and she went through it with me, I didn't write it all down, but she just went through all the members. and how we
Because that's gonna, the point that I'm getting at is that taking the diversity aspect out of it.
Mhm.
To me, if police and fire are already represented, then yes, it would make sense for Amy to be on the retirement board, in my opinion, because that is the diversity,
Mhm.
not because she's a she. That is the diversity that would happen here.
okay, well,
But if William Sweeney is not police, then my interpretation is gonna change. So someone has to figure out, if anyone knows.
Amy can help, Amy.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that I think William Sweeney is what they call the fifth member, and the fifth member is not an employee or retiree.
Thank you.
The fifth member used formerly before Mr. Sweeney, was Mr. Halsey. So it is on purpose, there's a specific thing called the fifth member.
Okay.
That must not be a retiree, cannot be an employee.
A fifth voting member.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what makes up the board.
Right.
Thank you.
So
So that's not
is,
police, yes.
Okay.
so police is not
fire.
represented on the board.
Correct.
Well,
And he was never a former employee? Just, never an employee,
The
okay.
fifth member may not.
Okay, no employee, gotcha.
then
But I'm not sure that means that he's not a police officer.
for me, I would want
Alright,
police represented on the board because they're a significant portion compared to anybody else, I would say.
alright, well, if you don't wanna vote on it tonight, we can sort of circle back on that, find out what Michael Sweeney did in his job. Or not working for Reading.
Yeah, to Karen's comment, we don't have to appoint tonight. I mean, it was requested out of all the boards and committees that have been waiting, that, retirement want us to appoint someone, but if we're split, we're split. We're not gonna, go around in circles. My recommendation would be for Mr. Abadi as well. So if I'm taking a pulse of the board, we're clearly divided unless someone wants to change their mind. So we could, make a different motion for that one. And maybe if we're all in agreement on the Board of Health, we could do that motion first, and then maybe have a little more discussion or no discussion on the retirement board. But I'm open to, if you guys are okay, to a motion to appoint the Board of Health.
Thanks, Carl. I just wanna speak to the comments made about Kevin Sexton earlier. This happened last year, it happened this time, it's gonna happen next time, et cetera, in the future. Knocking somebody because they're a Realtor on the Board of Health is the opposite of lowering the temperature in the room and all the other analogies that people wanna make and sit here and claim in Reading and then completely do the opposite. It's him and the other 4 members or not associates, whatever scenario, got us through COVID. Point blank, end of story. They put the time in, they put the energy and the effort in. And to knock any of them is unacceptable. It was COVID. We're all sitting here, we're all happy-go-lucky, yay, we're out of it. Go back 3 years when it was going on and then tell me Kevin Sexton's gonzo. Unacceptable by any stretch of the imagination. Back then, it was nuts, and nobody would ever want to go back there. And he was there, along with Dr. Lopez and everyone else that was on that. So I just take high exception to that once again, like I did last year. So I am fine with both of your recommendations.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for the Board of Health, please.
Which was going,
Oh, sorry, we
There's 1 year and 2.
Oh, yeah, we didn't, I don't know what to do on that one.
Have a recommendation?
Yeah, on the 1 year, 2 year.
Your recommendations?
In
How
general.
about Joan being new,
Yeah,
give her the
yeah,
1 year?
that's what I was thinking,
Okay.
yep. Also, we want it to be clear that we don't wanna we're not gonna re-interview them in a 30 days or what have you when we go through our regular cycle.
Yeah.
So this would be an appointment now,
To 2025.
yep, through a normal term, so like
Right.
a normal term in a couple
Right.
months,
Right.
if that's okay with the board.
Thank you. So Joan Wetzel for a 1 year voting member. And Kevin Sexton as a 2-year appointment, voting member. And Jerry Kramer as an associate for,
Carla,
yeah,
you don't have to do anything with Jerry if she's just gonna stay in her current
okay, thank you.
membership.
When does her appointment, Caitlin, do you have in front of her when her term expires?
June 30th, 25.
Okay, she's got another year. Good, very good.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, that helps. Okay, you got it, Chris?
Move to appoint Joan Wetzel as a member to the Board of Health with the term beginning immediately and expiring June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0, thank you. Next.
Move to appoint Kevin Sexton as a member to the Board of Health with the term beginning immediately and expiring June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No? All those in favor? Thank you, 4-0.
Don't need the
Oh,
other
don't
one.
need that one, thank you. All right, so I guess just to close the retirement board, it seems like we're not gonna have a 3-1 or a 4-0 vote unless someone wants to.
Well, I was gonna say, would it be possible to find out a bit more about Mr. Sweeney? That would help.
Yeah.
I think that might
I can get you
clarify
that back.
pretty
Okay.
quickly.
Okay, for our next meeting?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'm okay with that, okay. Okay, so no motion for that, so moving on to our next agenda item, which is discuss and vote on hiring an independent investigator to review and report on the circumstances, including statements made and actions taken surrounding the resignation of Jackie McCarthy from the Select Board on February 6, 2024, including statements made and actions taken following the February 6th meeting. So we did discuss this last meting briefly, and now we need to discuss it again. And if we're going to have Matt hire an investigator. So I will open it up to anybody who wants to kick this off.
Yeah, I have some questions.
Sure.
I would really like someone to walk through me, whoever put this on the agenda, like walk me through what the scope and the goals of this investigation would be. And I'd like to know whether, everybody gave us 3 options. If this is criminal, report it to law enforcement. If it's ethical, you report it to the AG. And this other option, which requires taxpayer money. And so I would love someone to walk me through what actions have taken place so far and specific thoughts on, what this investigation would look like and what the product would look like.
I understand that Ivry is on the Zoom.
Thank you. Okay.
I put this on the agenda,
Okay.
obviously with Ivry's assistance and Matt's, and I have not pursued the other 2 options formally. And that's where I stand. I think this is gonna be the most transparent and deliver us something that will answer a lot of unanswered questions that are out there by having an independent investigator interview the board and interview anyone that Jackie brings forward. So in my opinion, I feel this is the most transparent way to do this for the town and for us to put this behind us. And those are my comments.
So we would need to define the allegation that we're investigating. Is that defined anywhere?
I mean, it's right here in this.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
so it may be helpful, this was just the agenda item, so we need to provide sufficient notice to the public of what you are talking about. But I know that Carlo did work on a motion which goes into more depth around the scope of the investigation as he proposes and the work product. So it may help move this conversation along if that motion is presented or discussed, Carlo, just so that the board can understand where you're thinking.
right, thank you, yeah, that really gives the details on the agenda item. But before we do that, does anyone else have any comments before we move on to that? No? Right, so Chris has the proposed motion that will be
Is it
discussed.
lengthy? Should we put it on the screen?
Caitlin, do you have
Thank
it
you.
on the
Thank
screen, please?
One moment.
No worries. Bigger.
How's that look? Bigger?
Bigger,
A little bit if you can. We still have some screen there.
thank you.
I think that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I was really hoping that this would have been in the packet. Okay, best we can. Can you email me a copy of that?
Sure. Hold on one second.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Scroll up just a little bit.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Yep.
A little bit more. Can you scroll up a little bit? There's a few more sentences missing, I think. Not missing, but not shown. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
No, I would suggest anything that's lengthy be included in the packet or sent to us ahead of time.
We don't put motions in the packet, so.
Well, background information. If something this is a unique item, it's a complicated item, I would request that we put something in the packet and just take out the word move to or something. Because this requires thought and consideration and can't even read it. It's very long. So anyway, I'm just waiting for it to come in.
All right, Ken, 1 second.
That's okay, appreciate it. So, may I ask a couple some other questions? I have not found any authority that the select board has to really conduct an investigation in either the charter or the bylaws or our code of conduct. So is is there any authority that we have that I'm missing?
So you have general authority to look into matters involving the town. So I'm not, from a legal standpoint, I think it's appropriate for this board, from a legal standpoint, I think it's an action you can take. But you're absolutely right, you don't have authority to compel an investigation. So if Jackie doesn't want to participate, you can't force her to participate. If there's key witnesses that are refusing to communicate with the investigator, you don't have subpoena power to order them to participate. But from a municipal resources perspective, this is something that the board could do if in its discretion it decides to do so.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask the question again because maybe I should have directed it at you, Chris, because I thought I heard at one of our recent meetings that you said you were concerned enough about what might have happened that you might have called the Attorney General's office. Did I mishear this?
No, good.
Thanks, Carla. I'm going to reiterate what I've said multiple times, that I will not be speaking anymore on this matter. That's it. I will speak to the investigator, and there is the clause right here at the end that if Jackie McCarthy does not elect to participate in the investigation shall terminate immediately without any finding of facts or conclusions. So that's it. She doesn't participate, it's over. We've spent whatever minuscule amount of money right in the jump, and that's it. But other than any of the comments and everything that I made, believe me, I can get into so much stuff
Can you tell me what you said in the meeting before, or do I need to go back and watch it?
You can go back and watch it. Like I said, there's so many things I wanna say, do, etc. I have no further comment.
Alright, Caitlin sent me a copy, thank you. So I found another investigation that was done by the town of Hamilton, and it was a different situation. It was initiated against a select board member, and it was a town member, a staff member, or a former staff member, I'm a little clear on the timing, made an allegation that they were harassing them. So once that complaint from the person who felt that they were impacted by the harassment, an aggrieved party, made that complaint, then the town investigated it, and that seems logical to me. Ultimately, the select board member was cleared, but it did cost $8,200 in 2019. What concerns me here, and again, I still have to read this, is that there's been no complaint filed. And so I can't really even say whether this is something that is an ethical problem or if this is actually a crime, and whether this is an appropriate action to take, since no complaint has been filed. I have received no notification that our former colleague is asking for this investigation. I don't know if anybody else has any information that may be the case.
I think the residents are asking for an investigation. Primarily. I am also a resident. I'm a resident first, a volunteer second. So Jackie just didn't up and quit. Okay, she sent a letter to the editor that contradicted what you've said multiple times, that she quit for personal reasons.
Okay, I was here in the meeting, and we can go roll tape. She said, I'm resigning for personal reasons. That's what she said.
No, she did not. She did not.
What did she say?
I read it
He
at
read
the
it the last time, 2 weeks ago. Circumstances I cannot get into, quote. That's what she said.
I'm gonna take your word for it.
You're clearly against the investigation, and that's fine.
I'm
You're
asking
entitled to an
questions.
opinion.
I came here tonight unprepared to have this discussion.
It's on the
You
agenda.
guys did this work,
It's on the
but you
agenda.
didn't provide these, it's,
We're here to discuss it, Karen. We're here to discuss it.
good, I'm gonna, well, someone else can comment, let me read this
Okay,
then, because you
sure.
just plunked this on my desk.
Sure. Mark, go ahead.
Thanks. So a couple of things that might help to try to clarify a little bit in terms of, it talks about findings of facts or conclusions. Are we wanting to explore potential violations of board policies? And if so, what we might want to do to change them to prevent this from happening in the future?
In my opinion, the investigation is gonna take us where it takes us. And we as a board, you know, are always striving to do the right thing, right? Boards before us, this current board, boards in the future. And we have our policies, we have the town charter. Sometimes we go sideways from those, right? As individuals, as an entire board, we commit violations. We try to be respectful, sometimes we're not. And that's just our human behavior. But for me, February 6th was not a good day for Reading. It was not a good day for Reading, and not a good day for this board. So I think this town is owed an investigation by a third party. And if it involves we violated policies, I think we can address that as a board. I am open to that. I know one of us mentioned at a prior meeting that we should revisit our select board policies, and that's fine. But and like I said before, and I'm gonna say nothing further, something bad happened. I've said it in public, something bad happened. She was dressed in black, okay? Something bad happened. That might be a circumstance, but I don't think so. So I would like to get to the bottom of it. And I know many more people that are sitting here would like to get to the bottom of it. And that's just my opinion. But to answer your question, yeah, if we have violated policies, obviously nothing's criminal. and then we can address it as a board and how we can work better together. Does someone need to resign? That can be on the table. I know we can't make anyone resign, but to have a functioning board, we have to work together as best we can. And if someone did something nefarious, then that needs to be addressed. And I think the investigation is a way to find that. And if it finds nothing, it finds nothing. I don't have an answer. I wasn't part of her resigning. So
Neither was I.
that's fine.
All right, so Mr. Chair, would, I've had a chance to read this a little bit. Would you mind if we walk through it? There's like 3 points and a little bit
Sure,
afterwards.
Caitlin, can you go, I don't have it on my screen. Can you start at the top of the motion, please? On the screen?
Just scroll back a little bit.
Good.
Okay. So I'm looking at number 1 and so, just like Ms. McCarthy doesn't need to cooperate, neither does any other resident. And it specifically mentions that we're gonna investigate residents. And the part, in reading the last sentence, individually or as part of a coordinated effort to influence Ms. McCarthy's vote for the new town manager. The select board got 8 emails today urging us to conduct an investigation. Those are emails from residents asking the select board members to take action. So that seems that we would be opening a door to need to investigate a lot of other things.
Guys, please. Continue, sorry.
So on many major issues in this position, we've received resident emails asking us to vote one way or another. We received emails asking us to vote for a certain town manager from residents. So that's what so what I see is that number 1 is like a part of everyday life of being a select board member. You all send us or call us or text us your input and wishes, and we hear it, we read the emails. So I'm not quite sure, like.
This is related to the investigation. We're just not gonna interview people at random. This is related to the investigation only.
Can you maybe talk about how you envision this happening or what you were thinking?
Well, if I were an investigator, right, I would start with Jackie. That makes the most logical sense. I would listen to Jackie. I would take notes. I would take names down, and I would go interview those people. And then I would come back to Jackie and say, okay, Mr. So-and-so said this, Mrs. So-and-so said that, John Doe said this, Jane Doe said that. Is it contradictory? Is it the same? People are gonna say no comment. I'm not an investigator, but if I was, I would start with witness number 1, or subject number 1, ground zero, Jackie resigning. After that, Jackie might say, no, I don't want to comment. Investigation's over. She says, 10 people were involved. 10 people get interviewed. 20 people get interviewed. I don't know. That's what I would do. I don't know what you would do, but that's what I would do.
So, all right, so he calls her up and says, I'm here to investigate why you resigned. I had the impression that evening that Jackie was interested in privacy and keeping her own reasons personal. So doing this seems to me be a not very nice thing to do. And if she says, well, that is what I said in the meeting, this is personal, I don't wanna share this, then we've gone through this effort for nothing. And then if he starts asking questions like, how many residents sent you an email encouraging you to vote for so-and-so? Or how many residents called you and talked to you about the town manager search? I mean, are we gonna then publish a list of residents that Mrs. McCarthy talked to? And are those questions gonna be asked of each of the board members so that basically we come up with this list of 200 people and then we publish it?
If you read the whole thing, right, it's
Okay.
all geared towards the investigation, coordinated effort, influence, all these words, right? Not We're gonna interview
So-
people that emailed
All
us.
the emails I got today demanding an investigation, they all look the same. It looks like a coordinated effort. And it's not the first time I've seen that, and people can do that. That's a free country.
We've seen that many times.
But why are we
many topics.
investigating this coordinated effort? Why aren't we investigating all coordinated efforts?
Listen,
So I'm just trying to understand.
yeah, it's fine, yeah, listen, we all have our individual opinions, and you're entitled to your opinion. I think we've been dominating this conversation. I'd like to hear from Mark and Chris. And if we vote tonight, we vote. I'm hoping we get to a vote to move forward, right? I'll stop talking, sorry. Chris, go ahead.
Thanks, Carlo. Just to reiterate what Jackie said in her LTE the other day, it says, while an investigation won't change the past, I'm weighing my participation in a properly scoped investigation that I feel is in the best interest of Reading residents. If she wanted her privacy, she wouldn't have sent an LTE to the Reading Post. That's the complete opposite of someone who's wanting privacy. This is someone that wants to go on the record and do the right thing in the best interest of Reading residents. Just like she said, if she's not willing to participate, it's over. That's it. There's no hundreds of residents and emails and everything else. If she's willing to participate, then it goes forward. If she's not, it's over. It's as simple as that. It doesn't get any different for me. It's, to me, she wants to do what's in the best interest of the town. This board should do what's in the best interest of this town and clear the air. And if at the end of the day, nothing happened, then nothing happened. And someone is gonna be apologizing. But I have a feeling,
Who's that gonna be?
I have a feeling it's not
Some
gonna
board
be me.
members have been accusing and making allegations against other board members, so I would love to hear about where the apologies, if it goes nowhere, talk about the apologies, that's intriguing.
Well, that's a separate matter.
So I'm wondering if to listen to that point and address it.
Yeah.
In this point number one.
Yep.
To say all the things going forward are as part of a coordinated effort to unduly or inappropriately influence Ms. McCarthy's vote for the new town manager.
I'm okay with that.
Where is that again, Mark?
Right at the end of point number one, so right
Or as
before
part of a coordinated, yeah.
effort to unduly or inappropriately influence.
Unduly.
So I take Karen's point. The reason I bring this up is that the reality of politics on the board is that people are constantly lobbying for people to do A or B.
Right.
And that's frankly okay and appropriate and expected.
And encouraged.
Encouraged. That's how it works.
Right.
I think what we're trying to understand is, did something very wrong happen? There are allegations that it did.
Correct.
So let's just identify it as such.
Correct. I fully agree. No issues with me. And I'm speaking for myself, I'm okay with that language.
I'm fine with this.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, item number 2,
So, why is number 2 in here? I mean, the big event was, oh goodness, we just lost a member of our board. It's very concerning. But why are you looking for statements after and actions taken after February 6th? If the point of this investigation is to understand if there was something wrong that happened, I'll use the word, that unduly put pressure on Ms. McCarthy, that's number 1, got it. But what is number 2 about? That's like after she made her decision.
Mark has him up.
So one of the reasons why I think it's important to talk about board policies and exploring potential changes and things like that is because there are a lot of things that happened here. There is, departure from the board that took place. Then there is kind of how we dealt with it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of learning to take place from both.
I agree.
And I think it's important that we talk about that. That's part of the discussion, in my view, an important part of the discussion.
Yes, and to, I mean, again, I don't wanna make statements that will hurt the investigation, but that number 2 was purposely put there, I'll put that. It wasn't a willy-nilly. It was purposely put there to address, and I didn't speak to Mark about it, to kind of address now when Mark spoke to that, but to other things as well.
So I still kind of, I'm scratching my head because it's not like, this thing happened and were there some things we could have done to avoid it. This is like, there were statements made after the event that we need to investigate, and I don't understand what that's about. Is there an allegation there?
I don't either. I like I said,
So, again, I'm gonna come back to this question of board policies. The way that we're able to govern the town is to work by a set of policies, with the charter and our own policies and all those things. We need to have the opportunity to work through those. I think that we didn't do our best after this took place.
no.
And I think that we did violate some board policies. And I think we need to talk about that.
After the event?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what? I'm.
Every
Oh,
meeting,
you mean
every
like
meeting
code of
after,
conduct?
every
You mean
meeting
code of
after.
conduct and
Code of
behavior
conduct
towards
is
each other?
absolutely one of the policies,
Okay.
absolutely.
Can we put a pin in that one and go to number 3?
Should it say code of conduct in there? Like it'll be a little more specific?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So as it's currently drafted, point 3, which talks about the opinions of the investigator that the board is seeking, does not currently mention the code of conduct. So to the extent that this board would like that explored and evaluated by the investigator, then I would advise that we add at the end of point 3 and whether the select board's code of conduct were violated, so that it's clear what you're asking the investigator to look for.
I think we can all agree that it was violated, in my opinion. If the majority of us want to add that in there, then it doesn't bother me, but I violated it, and I'm not proud of it, but it was out there. It was out there.
I think it would help to put it in there because, again, whatever the findings are, they are, and then there'll be some things that we want to talk about as a board.
I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of
Which could
things,
be,
yeah.
you know, how do we use the code of conduct? Do we need to make changes to it?
Correct.
All those different pieces. This has to be learning what happened and, okay, now what? What do we do about it?
Yeah, recommendations, like our presentation. Recommendations.
There you go.
Yep.
So I would suggest adding it as town council suggested.
2 or 3?
Avery mentioned 3.
Mark, is it called the code of conduct or do you refer to it, is it called something different?
I believe it's a code of conduct.
It's on the website. Let's,
Yeah.
I believe it's code of conduct.
I think we grab
You
it.
don't have a copy of that?
I did the other night.
You did?
I will
See,
take
this
a
is a
look at
good
it.
code of conduct.
It's clear enough in the motion, I just didn't.
Yeah, I
know off the
think
top of your head.
It's in the left margin here.
I think that's a layup, but, you know,
So hang on, I'll
fine
get
with
to it.
adding it.
Oops, there it is right there. It's called Board Ethics and Protocols.
Okay, good.
That's what it's called.
Okay. Sorry, board ethics and protocols, plural.
Yes. Yes.
I think one thing that adding it does help as well is, you know, this is really an investigation into the board's actions. And so you're looking at yourself and, you know, what statements were made by board members to Jackie before she resigned, and what statements did the board make afterwards. And so including this really ties the thread that this is a hard look at the board itself.
So then, I mean, I can understand looking into board members' statements and actions. I'm concerned about residents. I'm concerned about scope and
Why are you concerned about residents if they were part of this? asking a legitimate question. Why are you concerned if residents
It
influence?
feels like the select board is going after residents. Is that
No.
what you
No.
intended to be? Cause it
No.
feels like it is.
No, it doesn't.
And it feels like, to me, like the investigator is going to. I can't speak for our former colleague. I cannot see our former colleague giving an investigator a list of residents that she talked to. And if she did, how long is that list? We talked to a lot of people. And how much is it gonna cost us to have this investigator like take notes on everybody's sort of recollection, like from over a month ago? And
Again,
residents don't have to participate.
again, in my opinion, if Jackie gives names and whatever those names are, if they're on a board or committee, they're also a resident, number one, right? If they're not on a board or committee, most likely they're gonna be a resident. Maybe they're not gonna be a resident of Reading that influenced or whatever the language is up there, right? But I am not Jackie McCarthy. Jackie McCarthy, given the scope of the investigation, which she referred to in her letter in her own words, I'm sure is gonna do the right thing and only give the names that I'm not gonna say forced to resign, obviously she did that in her own will, but led to the actions of her resigning. I don't think, and I hope none of us think, that Jackie McCarthy is gonna name 30 people just for the heck of it, as a witch hunt. I don't think she's gonna do
A
that.
lot of residents called me and had opinions about the town manager, a lot of people.
That's not what we're talking about.
So I'm assuming all of you also had a lot of conversations. And if we're worried about board actions, why are we going down a path that drags, I don't understand the board and committee thing, you're gonna have to explain it to me, but why are we dragging residents into this?
Cause they need.
Are we investigating board
They
actions?
may be part of the investigation. I didn't write this on my own.
You didn't,
No.
who scoped it out? I'm just talking about the scope. I would recommend a limited scope. I don't know what we're trying to get out of this. We have no authority to, we don't really have any authority to do anything. We don't have any teeth to do anything if there is bad behavior. We could talk about, honestly, we've had discussions about breaking our own code of conduct before. There's no teeth in the policy. People keep doing it.
So,
So
just to use your own words, if Jackie names a resident, the investigator should say, nope, I'm not gonna interview that person. Is that what you're saying?
I'm asking what you're trying to
No,
do
no, I want you to
here.
answer the question. If Jackie names a resident.
Not the way it's written. The way it's written, if I'm the investigator, I'm gonna go, hi, Ms. McCarthy, I'm here to talk to you about your very personal decision that you announced to the world and what you went through and start talking, and it says, in these little bullets, I need to ask you for everybody you talk to, and he can PR our emails, our select board emails, that's totally fine. What authority do we have, where would it stop? Phone calls, maybe she's trying to remember who she talked to, maybe she looks at her phone records, maybe she doesn't wanna go that far. She has texts, people communicate by text, how far is this gonna go? Are we gonna find out like all 500 names of people that had an opinion on the town manager search? Like, is that an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars, right? Because where I'm getting is that we all talked to a lot of people. The other investigation I saw, which was harassment, fewer people involved, cost $8,200. Like, what's the scope? Like,
We're discussing the scope right now.
well, do you disagree that we talk to a lot of people and a lot of residents call us with opinions on any number of topics, particularly this one?
You still didn't answer my question.
Which question?
If Jackie McCarthy names a resident, John Doe, bullied me, threatened me, said this to me, the investigators say, pass. I'm only talking to board members. Is that what you're saying?
I guess I'm thinking that, I don't know, are you looking for the board to be, or this investigator, or somebody to be a parent? Because people don't always talk to us in the nicest way and none of us are perfect, okay? So, but we're hiring an investigator to go be like, oh, you weren't very nice, police, and like what, I don't understand what you're gonna get out of this.
It's funny that this is a one-way conversation. It's just funny that you're giving all the
You've made-
pushback.
You've made serious allegations
I have
against
not
my
made any
colleague
allegations.
over there.
I have not made any allegations.
And I'm surprised he even wants to participate.
I have
I'd
made,
abstain.
I have made 0 allegations.
You
0.
guys have made snide comments, like,
I have made
even
0 allegations.
about like, I was the only, this is what, I'm gonna quote my colleague Chris. Alright, forget it, I won't do the impression.
Thank you.
Chris is like, I am the only one that didn't talk to Jackie McCarthy about this topic.
That is true.
You said, just
That
because
is
you
true.
said it, doesn't mean it's true, and
Oh,
since you and I
it's
didn't
true.
talk, you don't know that.
It's true. It's true.
You're missing the point.
It's
You're
true.
missing the
We're
point.
getting off the rails. We're getting
It's
off the
true.
rails. We're getting off the rails. We're discussing item by item. We're adding, we're talking, we wanna move forward.
What, let's just say I raised my hand and I was like, I'm not gonna quit, but residents were calling me and being irate and lobbying hard because they wanted something. I wanna launch an investigation and I want you to, I'm gonna give you all of their names and I want you to go talk to all of them. And I want you to come back and publish all of that stuff and we're gonna make a moral decision as to whether they were out of line. Like I feel, this is what this investigation is. That's what it feels like to me.
We are elected officials,
Uh-huh.
all right?
Uh-huh.
We all got elected, some
Yep.
of us got re-elected.
Mhm.
We have to be accountable. Jackie got duly elected. I'm pretty sure she was gonna complete her term. Pretty confident. I don't know 100%, but I'm pretty confident she was gonna fulfill her 3 years. And I think she mentioned that in her letter. I don't have it memorized, but I think she mentioned that she planned to finish out her term. Something happened. My exact comments were, something went wrong. That's the only allegation I made, is something went wrong. That's it.
So you're not the aggrieved party. The aggrieved party has not felt that this was something that she needed to complain about. And from my understanding of investigations, like, that person needs to be willing to come forward
She
and
just
say,
wrote a letter. Did you
she
read the letter?
wrote a letter to the editor. That's not, and that's a God-given right. She can say what she wants. What she didn't do was send a letter to the board or to the Attorney General or to anybody else saying,
We don't know what she did. Do you know what she did?
no,
I don't either.
no, I don't.
So you're making comments, you're putting words in her mouth.
I am not putting words in her mouth.
You just did.
I'm saying what hasn't happened. I'm saying what
How
hasn't.
do you know it hasn't happened?
Okay, let me ask the question. Matt, have you received any complaints from a former colleague, like, in any way, shape, or form?
I don't think Matt should be put on the spot like this. It is not his.
Well, he can.
It's not his.
I don't understand the question.
I know, right? So what I'm saying is you're launching an investigation for somebody who hasn't lodged that they were, a complaint that they were wronged.
Can we work on the item of task, get through it, and vote? If you wanna vote no, you're entitled to vote no.
I think everybody needs to understand what an invasion of privacy and granted, great, if the first stop for the investigator is Ms. McCarthy's house and sounds like a great day. And she says, no, thank you, but thanks for stopping by, we're all done.
Yeah.
That would be great, because that takes the least amount of time and spends the least
It's in
tax-
writing, it's in writing.
Yep, okay, so let me finish. But this is too broad. This is not an investigation of board conduct. This is trying to be an investigation of resident conduct.
No.
Take your vote.
Guys,
Take
please,
your
please, let us work through this. I think, do we have any other, we added code of conduct, am I right, on the protocols and ethics? All right, can we move on to the bottom piece, please? Caitlin, can you scroll up a bit?
So question on number 3.
Yeah, hold on, Caitlin.
One of the things I thought I was hearing related to findings, which is number 3. So it says,
Yeah, finding,
which
findings
include
of
the
the,
findings of the investigations. What I thought one of Karen's questions was also is that if the investigator doesn't find an issue with a person, particularly with the public, and probably if they chose not to speak because they don't have to, then they're not named in the report. So in other words, the question of privacy is what happens, so I don't have a problem with the investigator talking to people. The question is what happens, just a laundry list of names, but
No.
if people aren't,
I get it, but I'm gonna disagree with you. If Jackie names a name, that name should be written down, and when that person's interviewed and they say no comment, that should be noted. because Jackie is part of the investigation if she cooperates. So if she gives a name, I trust her to not just name names for the sake of naming names, but that's my opinion. So if a name is given, John Doe, 22 Main Street. They go to 22 Main Street, John Doe, do you care to comment? No comment. He writes no comment, he or she writes no comment, and end. That's it. I get your point, but the part of the investigation is to investigate. And that's part of the investigation. And if everybody says no comment, but Jackie, that's the investigation, that's the findings. If everybody, including us, say, I'm not saying anything, I don't have to say anything, then that's our prerogative. But, you know, I think it has to be noted, if I get interviewed and I say no comment, that has to be noted.
Conversely, if you get interviewed and you give your comments, it could clear your name. And now you're not off the hook, but like, listen, an independent investigator did the investigation, and Carlo Bacci, I spoke with him, Jackie implicated him, he was one of the people, I spoke with him, he has evidence to the contrary. And we are now excluding Carlo Bacci from this, and now your name is cleared, which is the opposite of what you're just saying.
I think your point is valid, Mark, but I think as part as the investigation goes, I think it needs to be noted. Again, my opinion, it needs to be noted because that becomes part of the investigation.
Well, I think the investigator certainly notes it, and the investigator, as written, is gonna form an opinion at the end.
Right. But this has to be a public document, not a private document, obviously. We can't keep this private. This is gonna be a public document.
Maybe we can have an executive session first and go through what we want to do anyway.
That
Redact
might make
names,
sense.
et cetera. We can do whatever we want
I'm
after.
gonna ask Vibria if that meets one of the 5 criteria.
Avery, did you catch that?
So I'm not sure what you mean by the 5 criteria, Karen, can you explain?
There are, I'm sorry, is it 5, the criteria under which we may enter into executive session?
Oh,
Report findings, reviewing in an executive session, redacting names, I think that's what we're talking about.
right, so it's difficult without knowing exactly what the investigator is going to find. What should be clear to everyone is that emails that Jackie receives are public records, and it's highly unlikely that individual names can be redacted from those emails. If there is a complaint or charge against someone, you can discuss that in executive session, but it depends on the nature of the complaint, whether or not you can redact that individual's name. Under the public records law, you can redact privacy, but that threshold, that bar is very high right now in the eyes of the supervisor of public records. I think we should assume that everything the investigator writes will likely be a public record in this case.
Yeah. Redacting is the opposite of what needs to be done.
Yeah, I do think one note I have, and if you could scroll up, Caitlin, just so I can see point 2 a little bit more too. So I guess I was under the impression that the investigation was going to tie back to actions taken by select board members. So I guess the question I have, Carlo, is under the scope, if a resident acted completely on their own without direction from select board members or other elected or appointed officials, is the investigation going to include that?
Say that again, I'm sorry, what?
So if an individual acted completely on their own,
Right.
is that part of the investigation? Without speaking with select board members or other municipal officials?
If that person is named,
Mhm.
I would think so, but I'm not, I don't, it's a hypothetical, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to know because we just don't have a lot of information here without Jackie having, articulated to some extent what the issues are.
Right, but and I don't know if you had the chance to read Jackie's letter, but Jackie, I'm not going to say she clearly stated, but she did state that to Chris's comments that she wants to do right by the town with a proper scoped investigation, and that's what we're going through right now. So redacting just seems silly to me. So to me, that's a non-starter. But as far as if an individual acted on their own, I mean that's, and Jackie felt threatened by that. I guess Jackie could make that comment, but obviously that has no weight. On it because it didn't come from us. But if it's tied to one of us, then that's a separate matter. So again, I don't know the participation rate on this one. I can't even imagine what it's going to be or not going to be, and it's not up to me. It really isn't. I will comply with my interview, and that's all I can say. And that's it.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, if possible.
Come to the podium, please.
Absolutely. Christopher Kreidler, Berkeley Street. I was actually just curious that if it does in fact get into possible criminal conduct of residents, how does the investigation end up attempting to protect those residents' rights to privacy, those residents' Fifth Amendment rights, their other constitutional rights? If it is in fact a criminal investigation that does end up taking place.
If a crime was committed.
Placing undue influence in things in the commission of trying to convince someone to vote can technically be considered a crime.
I'm not an attorney, so I'm gonna let Ivrea handle that one. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so this is not a criminal investigation. The investigator is not a member of law enforcement. This is a fact-finding mission, so I think those are good questions for each individual who's going to be participating to think about is whether or not they want to participate. But this is not a criminal investigation. Stuff may come forward that may support a criminal investigation led by the proper law enforcement body, but that is not what is occurring here.
And counsel, just would all residents then be advised of their Fifth Amendment rights and rights to counsel prior to being requested to take part in the investigation itself?
No, because it's not a criminal investigation. There's no right to counsel. It's a voluntary participation. They don't have to participate. If the investigator asks them, do you want to give a statement here? They say, do I have to? No, the investigators will be very clear, but it's not like they have a right to counsel because they don't have to participate. It's not a criminal investigation. It's not the same like a police officer. The select board has no authority to conduct an investigation that involves subpoenaed or compelled witnesses in this case.
As long as we are absolutely clear that there is absolutely no requirement that residents take part. However, I would be wary of residents not necessarily knowing their Fifth Amendment rights before taking part in these investigations or before agreeing to take part in these investigations.
Your comments are noted. Thank you.
So thank you. And my assumption is, would there be a vote on this tonight, or would the board allow?
We're out of the point of order part of this.
I apologize.
That's okay. It's okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Point of order?
It is a point of order? Okay.
I think it is. Linda Snowdock, sir, Beaver Road. My point of order is just I keep hearing the word scope being said, and I'm wondering what scope means. Is this going to entail public records requests of the board? Because I'm wondering what the scope is.
The investigation is gonna take the direction it takes. That's my comment.
Yeah, no, that's not, no, we're not gonna, you haven't done your job. You do not have a piggy bank to go and conduct wild, unlimited investigations. You just don't.
I'm not doing the investigating.
You're looking to hire an investigator and you're like, go off and have fun, see what you can dig up. That's what this says. Talk to anybody.
So can we ask a question of town council?
Yeah.
Ivry, can you, I know so that these don't necessarily come up all the time, but what's the best way to kind of structure scope and other things, so that the investigator knows kind of what the expectation is? We've got that in the outcome. How about in the input?
So I think it's clear to the investigator that this is not going to be like a free-for-all, that there are paths that she's going to look at, and I do think that that is conveyed with this statement here. My concern with this statement is about residents and the fact that they're not tied to municipal officials. So usually when we look at the expenditure of funds, we're looking at whether the fund is supporting good government or if there's a public purpose at the end of all of this, not whether there's, I think that's what we need to keep in mind is what is the public purpose? Is there a government purpose here? And I think investigating statements made that select board members made, that municipal officials made, or attempts to use non-municipal officials in a way that a municipal official couldn't act themselves, those types of things are clearly within the scope of what you could actually investigate. I think the fact that residents themselves are being investigated is a little bit gray. So we want to make sure that we're really tying everything back to good government and making sure there's a public purpose behind the scope of this investigation.
Thank you. Good question. Chris?
As a hypothetical, because I always go for the loopholes and everything, if we remove the resident portion, that means my wife is exempt. And do you think my wife should be exempt from this entire thing? Of course not. Why should she be? The same for all three of you sitting up here. So I'm not okay with removing the resident aspect when something like I just said, it's as simple circumvented just by doing it.
How is your wife involved?
You don't know that she is.
He's giving her.
We have 26,000 residents. I don't know how many are adults. We
I
have 20,000 adults. Where's the scope? How far is this gonna go?
the scope,
Anybody raises their hand, gets to talk to the investigator? We have to pay for this.
Jackie is gonna lead the investigation with the names that she gives. She gives no names, there's no investigation. I don't get it.
and it's over.
She gives 0 names, it's over. She gives 2 names, 2 people get interviewed. She gives 20, it's 20. I don't know. I wish I knew, but I don't. You're asking me, us, how do we know? We don't know.
Let's just assume the worst. Let's just assume, I've been here and I have been listened to public comments that were horribly mean-spirited, directed at myself. And we know that the state's highest court has said we can't tell people to be nice. So why would I be surprised if in the course of the interviews, maybe there's some people that weren't very nice and expressing and lobbying for what they wanted to happen? But so is public good then publishing more letters of people being not very nice? Like let's talk about the public good. I think what she's asking is, because we could clearly define what we're looking for. I don't, your wife's not a board member. I don't understand why you're worried about what your wife has to say.
I just gave a hypothetical.
Okay.
That
Now you were like,
I
I
have
really want my
I
wife
have
to
to
be
attribute it to me, so I don't attribute it to anybody else. I'll just say, the scope is gonna follow, was Jackie McCarthy threatened to change her vote? That's it. It's not, did she decide to go for a walk 2 times before she came into the meeting? Was her,
Is your focus on board members making a threat?
it doesn't matter.
That's only 4 people. We could do that pretty quickly.
It doesn't matter
Why would you be, why, residents call me up and give me nasty talkings to all the time.
The difference between that
I'm not
and in
gonna
this
spend my-
scenario is you are still on the select board and Jackie McCarthy is at home watching.
Also, if I threaten to quit,
That's the difference.
you're gonna call an investigator and I get to list all these people were mean and rude to me. So, to keep me
listen,
from quitting,
you
what is the
don't-
end game?
You don't know the beginning and the end to being rude, Karen. The things that I have received.
This is code of conduct
Yes,
problems right here.
It's me.
Can we,
It's all
can
comes back to
we-
me every time.
Can we move on, please, because
Yes,
we
I'm good.
have a few more agenda items.
I am 100% fine with what Mark added to the changes up there and I'm ready to vote on it.
I'd make a motion to table this because it's not ready.
But guys, it's not up to you, sorry, it's up to us, it's up to us. It's not up to you guys, all right? If it was, you know, it's a different story, but it's not, sorry. I'm ready, I am comfortable with the additions to this and to vote tonight.
I'm not comfortable. This is a very broad investigation. There's no limit on this. It's going after residents.
It's going after residents who are named. It's not going after residents willy-nilly.
I think you are putting our calling in an awful position. And I don't think that's the kind of person she is. And I cannot believe you don't see that.
Any other comments? Open the screen.
Like this for a second.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Caitlin, can you scroll back to the top of it just for a minute and start right at the top?
Point of grammar,
Yeah.
okay.
Hold on, Jeff, hold on. Thank you.
Can you scroll higher now, please? So past number 3.
Caitlin, yeah, can you go up to the last part, please? Keep going, keep going, keep going.
That's
Good, good. Come down a bit, 'cause I think that's part of. I think she separated it. Yeah, she separated it.
Sorry, can you connect the number 3 to that again, please?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep,
Okay,
great,
good,
great.
thank you, perfect.
Sorry, can you go back to number 1 again for a second? So I So I think it needs to move forward. I have a little concern about the resident side and kind of putting some people potentially into a tough position in which they may have to not respond or respond, I don't know. Just don't want to have that. I want as written, the investigator is gonna find facts and is gonna then give an opinion, right? Findings of the investigations conducted, and then the investigator's opinion on whether Ms. McCarthy was threatened or bullied by any of these individuals in order to influence her vote. I guess that should be unduly influence her voting in.
To correlate number one.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, Caitlin?
No, we said that again?
Number 3, right before the word influence in the second to last line, in order to unduly.
Yeah, right there.
I guess you want to mirror it or inappropriately, unduly or inappropriately.
Yeah.
So with the concerns taken for the residents, I think it's the right basic here. I think it's the right stuff here.
Well, thank you. Jeff, Jeff had a couple typos that he caught. Thank you, Jeff.
Jeffrey Carter, Ridge, just the last bit on part 3, protocols were violated.
I saw that one coming.
The other question, by point of information, is whether if the investigation terminates due to Jackie's not wanting to be it, is that the intent of the select board that the investigation under point 2 is also immediately terminated?
My interpretation would be yes, but yeah, I'd gather. But yeah.
That part does not necessarily need Jackie.
Right, but yeah, I get your point. Thank you. No, are we ready to vote?
Can I just
No,
fix
good, sure.
to Jeffrey's point? So in
Oh.
number 3, the second to last word, change it from was to were. Did I hit that right?
Oh, sorry.
Second to last word in number 3.
Ethics and protocols is singular to documents. I think it is what
Yeah, in our document it's protocols. Plural.
it's a document,
Oh.
it's singular. The title of the document is plural.
Oh.
Document is singular. It's not a document.
I defer to.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I got B in English, so I'm not gonna. Point of order?
Point of order.
Sure.
Tom Wine, 21 South Street. You've gone through all this, but technically you haven't read it and seconded it. So before you vote, make sure.
No, yeah, thank you. We're still discussing, thank you. We have not read a motion yet. Any other comments? Nope.
The note should reflect that I made a motion to table this item, which was not seconded, please, Caitlin. Thank you.
Okay,
Does you want to email this to me, or am I going to read it off the screen?
I would just read it off the screen.
So we're good?
I'm good. All good.
Move to authorize the town manager to hire an independent investigator for the following purposes. 1, to investigate the facts and circumstances, including statements made and actions taken surrounding Jackie McCarthy's decision to resign from the Reading Select Board on February 6, 2024, including statements made and actions taken by Select Board members, other elected and appointed officials, and residents individually or as part of a coordinated effort to unduly or inappropriately influence Ms. McCarthy's vote for the new town manager. Number 2, to investigate statements made and actions taken by Select Board members other elected and appointed officials and residents immediately following the February 6th meeting that relate to her resignation and the board's response. And number 3, to provide a written report to the Select Board within 60 days of the investigator's hiring date, unless an extension is provided by the town manager, which report shall include the findings of the investigations conducted under parts 1 and 2 above, as well as the investigator's opinion on whether Ms. McCarthy was threatened or bullied by any of these individuals in order to unduly or inappropriately influence her vote, and whether the select board ethics and protocols were violated. And further, that the town manager asked the investigator that individuals interviewed attest to the truth and accuracy of any statement given, and provided further that if Ms. McCarthy does not elect to participate in the investigation, that the investigation shall terminate immediately without any finding of facts or conclusions.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Chris?
Thanks, Carlo. I appreciate, Mark, your willingness to cooperate on this, and it is duly noted. So thank you.
Any other discussion?
I would like the record to reflect that this investigation was not initiated by former select board member Jackie McCarthy.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, we had a second, right? So all those in favor? 3, all those opposed? 1. Thank you. On to the next agenda item. Why don't we take a 5-minute recess, folks? All right, we're back in session. Next agenda item is discuss and vote on modification to Community Preservation Act Study Committee membership to replace ex officio member of Affordable Housing Trust Committee with an ex officio member of Reading Housing Authority. Touched upon this last time, and now we have to make it official.
Yeah, that's correct. So I did reach out to the Housing Authority again. And I mentioned last time that because the director is a non-voting member, they felt they should have a voice on this. So I asked if we were to replace the Affordable Housing Trust member with Housing Authority member, if that would satisfy their concerns. The executive director reported back to me that she ran it by the board and they said they would. And the other issues, we haven't constituted the Affordable Housing Trust yet because we're trying to get applications. So that change would seem to rectify the situation.
Okay. All right. Any discussion from?
So just to be clear, and I'm reading it here also.
Yeah.
Right now, in yellow highlight, in fact, Caitlin, could you just put it up? The
motion?
Actually, page 10 of the packet.
Yeah.
CPA Study Committee?
Right.
You
Yeah.
got it. Please. You've got to hyperlink it to the numbers. You just jump.
When I'm on Zoom, the thing at the top locks on my
Yeah, go down. Yep, you're there.
function. There we go.
Oh,
A little bit bigger if you can, but we all have it on our screen.
Sure.
It's in the packet. Don't be quiet.
okay, so right now in yellow it says Affordable Housing Trust member. What we're proposing is to change that to member of the Reading Housing Authority, because the Affordable Housing Trust doesn't yet have members.
Correct.
And that would be voting.
Right, so it'd be in the 5 ex officios.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about. I think that's
Yeah.
what we should do.
Right.
And get it going.
Get it going. Right.
By the way, I saw today in the paper that Winchester is bringing their CPA application to town meeting now. That was in today's paper.
Wow.
So obviously they jumped and decided to bring it forward. So I'm good with this change. I suggest it. I think it's a good idea.
5 or 6?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, yeah. 5.
Boy, good thing we got you here. So, yeah, so that's correct. So we want it to be a total of 7. So this should be 6, not 5.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's
And
the
then
typo.
one resident.
That's the typo.
And then the director is a non-voting member.
Right.
Right, that's staying, correct? It's
Yeah,
not-
she didn't say not to, she didn't
Yeah.
ask me to take that part out, so
Right.
I leave that part in.
So the total stays 7 somehow.
Yeah,
Oh, you know why? Because last time we added conservation.
yeah, right,
That's
right.
Yeah, so it'll be.
Caitlin, are you able to amend this, or you're just taking notes?
I will take notes and amend it. This is a PDF, so
Oh,
I'll
okay.
I'll amend it tomorrow in the office.
All right, are we all okay with that? Okay, all right, motion?
There is a motion. Move to amend the CPA Study Committee membership to replace a member of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee with a member of the Reading Housing Authority.
Second.
Second, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. All right, ready for a vote? All those in favor? 3. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Is that a yes to abstaining?
I'm over here.
Okay. All right. 3,
0.
0. Okay. All right. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you for visiting.
That updated. All right, now we are on future agendas. I'll go last. I have a few talking points. Go right ahead.
So we chatted last time briefly about asking PTTTF to come forward with areas of interest, shall we call it? Related to safety concerns, crossings in
Yeah,
particular,
yeah.
safety crossings. If they could come up with some ideas and maybe even priorities to share with the board.
And is it, so PTTF is a large committee, would it be a delegation of PTTF or how?
No, I think representative.
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 Be great,
Representative of PTTF, okay.
Christine
So
or
would it be
somebody.
they talk about it and then
Yeah,
have representatives come forward?
I think
Okay.
kind of, I'm sure they talk about it all the time,
Okay.
public safety and
Yeah, sure.
crosswalks, but I think given, you know, what's been going on and, you know, to make, like, I think there should be a crosswalk personally, at Memorial Park.
Okay.
I think that's getting done.
Yeah, there is one.
No,
No,
it's
on the main
getting moved, or
Oh,
something
oh,
else
oh,
is
oh.
happening. I went over this
On the
with the
129th
rest,
side?
yes. There's
Okay,
something in
yeah.
town meeting or something we already did. Because I went over, a resident specifically wanted it moved, and they're doing, I think, a study to see if it can be, so.
Okay,
But
sorry.
we'll have them
It's the
answer
right
that when
direction.
they get to it.
Okay, anything else? That's good.
That's really the only one I had now. Yeah.
Okay,
So May 21st, that would be an opportunity for the Killam project team, the owners, project manager, designers to come to select board and tell us what the numbers are looking like specifically, and talk to us about other concerns like MBT communities, scheduling, cost.
they're gonna talk about MBTA communities?
Confirm what I shared with you,
Oh,
where you asked questions
earlier.
about, you know, whether
The funding
not
part of
having
it?
it in place is gonna put our project in jeopardy, and they're happy to talk about the timeline as well.
Okay, and they'll be ready, you've like spoken
Yeah, so
to
they're
them?
making the submission on May 20th, so May 21st is perfect, because at that point they can say, we've submitted it to the MSBA, and here's what we submitted.
So can I suggest another agenda item?
Sure.
We should talk about how we wanna coordinate some of the activities going on, because if you look at May 21st, it also has recalc update and presentation.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we need to think about how we wanna coordinate things first and then talk about what's the best way to kind of cycle them through discussions. I'm not sure we wanna do both on the same day necessarily. But we also, I think, can't ignore the fact, and as
You
we've been
could
already
swap
talking
out,
about, that we
so-
wanna talk.
This was on the 7th, could recalc be ready earlier, because like that doesn't make sense.
So Mark, I just put it on the 21st because you said to put it on a future meeting. It's not there for any specific reason.
Yeah, so the intent was to put it, so my intent was to put it on the second May meeting.
Yeah, that's what we,
Okay.
that's what we
So
discussed,
that was
yeah.
the spot.
To give them enough time.
So is our next meeting May 7th?
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
So could we move that hearing out? Has it already been published? The hearing for the classified and compensation schedules?
No, you can't move that.
Yeah,
It's already advertised?
well,
Sorry, it's not advertised, but it needs to be done by a certain time. I mean, I can double check with Sean, but he had me put this on the agenda a while ago.
it's usually
Make
done
sure it
right
didn't get
after town meeting.
How about we pull in, okay,
Can you scroll up to May 7th real quick,
yeah,
just so we
yeah,
can see that too?
yeah. So we're not a full board on the 7th, we're
Correct,
four.
right.
So
Wanna
maybe,
change a meeting? What's the other date? Like, 7th is just not a good date.
yeah,
14th
so
is
I don't
actually-
think that things can be ready for the 7th.
Okay.
Maybe what we could do is coordinate between the 21st and the 4th of June. Maybe the 4th of June is 2 weeks later. But maybe that's a possible for
Yeah,
one or the other. But I see Sweck's there too.
we already have a PTTF update scheduled for the 4th.
Yeah, we can't
already.
wait, we need to talk, these two projects are on a collision course, and we need to get updates, and we need to talk about how we wanna deal with this.
So are we getting a full presentation or a microcosm of the, what do you think is?
Well, they could discuss, they can remind you of the timeline, and our timeline, the timeline is rigid. Really, it's an opportunity for you all to ask questions as well. They will present exactly what was submitted at this point to the MSBA for consideration. And the next deadline is coming up in late June, I think. And
What-
again, the owner's project manager and the designer will be here. Maybe the owner's project manager would be more important to just ask whatever questions that you haven't had a chance to ask about what this is gonna mean.
Is there anything we can move from the 21st to the 7th? That is not time sensitive?
I was gonna say not even,
National Public Works Week proclamation, maybe.
we could do it early. Can we do it early? I mean, that only takes 5 minutes though, so, but
Can you,
What if you move the discussion of the water rate up a meeting?
To discuss only, not.
yeah, right, oh, yeah, we'll
That's
wait
the
on.
discussion.
I'm okay with that, that's just a quickie.
Are we
Good
going
And then
to?
you're gonna vote on that June 4th.
You were gonna vote on June 4th, right?
Oh, well, we vote that early on that? Oh my God.
That's what we have to do it on the fourth. We can't,
We're voting on the fourth?
no,
No,
discuss on
discuss.
the fourth, but he said vote on June fourth, so that's 2 meetings
Oh,
to revolutionize the water.
Pat, when
So they were
when
talking
do
actually
you,
May
wait,
7th,
when's the
right? Not
deadline
May
for
4th?
voting on the
Sorry.
water rates?
Yeah,
Like
it's May
July 1?
Yeah, because it's the next year. We had a meeting with Matt today on the water rates. But it could move. I did say that it was on for the 4th.
Yeah.
He said it could be earlier, it could be later, but I wouldn't go too long because, you know, we have to get bills ready and whatnot, so.
right. So should we move the discuss to the seventh?
Yes.
Of May?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay,
And I'll check with,
is that okay, you think, Matt?
I'll check with Matt as well, to make sure he can have everything ready by then.
Alright, so
Is Andrew stuck on May 21st for the parking kiosk update? Could that go earlier?
I was gonna suggest
Oh.
that the parking kiosk update go to the seventh too.
It would make sense for us to talk on the 7th about how we want to coordinate projects in 2 ways. One is from a kind of a priority and all taking funds point of view. And the other is how do we kind of sequence events? So the presentation on schools, I assume, relates to staying on track and kind of here's
Yeah.
where we are in
Yeah,
questioning.
right, yeah, right.
The
Other,
the recalc presentation would focus on a recommended site to move forward with. And if the board agreed, they would then go into a feasibility study, which is
for that
already
one, for
paid
that one
for that
site.
one.
Yeah,
Right. So we don't wanna push that out too far because that pushes
No,
everything else down the
I
line.
agree, and I think, so on to that note, yeah, the kiosk, so I did my own focus group today, walked around to a few small businesses in town. And just because, I learned from Matt that, you know, I felt like Paul Revere, the kiosks are coming, and, they are coming. And the vendor is anxious to install them, like they wanna, you know, finalize it. So unless something's changed, I think they're gonna be installed in June.
That's the
Sometime
plan.
in June. So and when I went around today, you know, given that Ben Keir's left, there's been no communication, and not that there needed to be, but I asked every business owner, hey, has anyone reached out to let you know the kiosks are finally coming? And they said no. So I think a discussion by us on the 7th, coupled
Yeah.
with an email,
Yeah,
that the
that was
town is
the
gonna
idea,
send, the
to
town is gonna send to let
have
them
the board
know,
move
so they can make their own literature, right, for their customers. And hopefully the new economic person can make flyers and start putting them on cars and start, you know, promoting this, so.
So sooner is actually better.
Yeah, sooner is better for the kiosk discussion, just update or let the know the public that it's coming. And then obviously, that was on there, the building committee for the senior center is not, no, that was on for the 7th and that got moved, right? The building committee part,
Yes.
that's on June now, right? That's
Yes.
on June, right? So.
Yeah.
Can we scroll up again, cause I have an older version of this I didn't print off this for the 7th, so we're adding water and sewer rates. We're adding just a, you know, 5-minute discussion, the kiosks are coming, I'll wear my Paul Revere hat. And then
Maybe Paul Redding had.
yeah, and then I would like to get on a agenda item soon is go back to what we did and honor the Eagle Scouts. Because I know just from social media that one of the projects was, I think, on trails or conservation. So I think, you know, other than that, they all need to be recognized, but I think when they do stuff for projects for us, they definitely should be recognized. As far as Eagle Scouts, it's a big deal. So I'd like that in the next couple of meetings, and, you know, we can figure that out, because I have to coordinate that. Some of them are college students now, some aren't, so I started that process, and the recent Eagle Scouts are 6. So I'd like for all of them and their families to be here if possible. We'll just go with the majority, right? We're not gonna just I can make it, I can't make it, I can make it, I can't make it. We'll get a consensus on that. And that was my addition for the Eagle Scouts, parking kiosks, Killam, we already talked about. So is the 21st still too busy?
So if
Recal's gonna be a big discussion. I wanna give us, enough time for that, and that's, we would expect a big public presence for that too, hopefully, so I don't know what you've been presented, how long what you envision, or is it just an update from the owner's project manager?
You know what, let's say 30 minutes, high level, like where we're at. As I said, they're gonna have numbers and
Yeah,
we
okay,
have
yeah,
a different audience, so
Right, and can we move National Public Works Week? Is that correlated to the week of the 21st, or is that just in May? If we could
I
find
think it
out.
was just the closest to it, but I'm assuming we could do it a little early.
Yeah, I want it to make sense, I think we all do, so maybe ask Chris.
Yeah, I'll ask Chris when exactly it is and
Yeah, that's 5 minutes, so that's just, opens up a line. And I'm
you're
assuming
gonna try to get the Eagle Scouts on the 7th too?
that probably gonna be too soon, I don't know, I'm
Pretty quick.
That's pretty quick. So I'm gonna see who's in college and who isn't.
This is a month away, that's the difference.
No, right, I know it's a month away, but again, I'd like to honor all
Yeah,
6
yeah.
if possible. Right, if it's 2, it's 2. If kids are in college and they're gonna go get a job or going to Europe, I gotta find that out. And that's all I have for future agendas right now. Oh, to Mark's point, yeah, we need a financial forum.
yes.
We definitely need a financial forum, probably in June.
So I brought this up to the chair several weeks ago, but with town meeting being the focus, it was like right after town meeting,
Yeah,
it sounds like a
yeah.
great idea, but nothing formal other
Right,
than, good idea.
So I think we'll have to coordinate with finance committee and school committee and find a,
So we don't have to, I mean, I've kind of brought it up too, we don't really have to wait, should we start putting dates out there and just send it to them? I mean,
dates for what,
for a
financial forum?
financial forum?
Well, so actually,
not wait,
FinCom
but-
kind of runs it, so I think
Yeah,
we should
we gotta,
suggest to them the timing.
I have, and you have, and I don't wanna wait anymore.
what was the feedback when you suggested it? They said yes.
The idea is yes.
Yes.
The timing hasn't really been thought through, but
Right.
soon. I mean, soon after town meeting, I think was so it was just an informal discussion I had with
So
the chair.
I'll
It was
work with
nothing-
Matt on that and we'll
Okay.
talk to Ed and we'll get that going, right, but I think.
So that wouldn't be on one of our meetings?
No,
It
I
would
just,
be another
to
time.
Mark's points,
Yeah.
Coordinating some of these things.
to have a broader discussion of all these projects.
And I wonder if we could have maybe it's not an agenda item, but it's a to-do in terms of coordinating SWAC, recalc, and what are the pieces that should have informal discussions?
Yeah, I think, where do I have SWEC now, on the 20?
I think it's the
The June 4th.
June 4th.
Yeah, that's kind of where I had it, and so that's a slide deck that I'm gonna present, presentation wise, 15 minutes, and then discussion, and I think that will, I don't wanna say answer a lot of questions, a lot of things are gonna be obvious, but I think we were shooting for May, but I think June is more appropriate, so we don't, May 21st is just too busy. So June 4th is fine for that. And I think that kind of will help as far as, because we do mention active living center in that recommendations, we do mention, so that kind of.
Options.
Yeah.
Yep.
It kind of incorporates that, so. All right, any other items? I think we're good. I'll tighten this up with Matt.
Yep.
We got a month, so at least we got time, and some other things might come up,
Yeah.
and we'll address it, but that's good. The minutes, has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yep, I say.
Have I just read these so many times that I feel like we
thought
already did it?
did this one.
I did
got
too.
the
This
same
is the
thing.
one we missed.
I
This is
was
the one
like,
we
here we
missed.
go again.
This is the one we missed. This
Is
is the one, yeah, Caitlin did not.
There's a lot of similar minutes.
I do like the,
I'll put
fighting.
them up because I had a few, Karen sent me just a few small edits that,
Yeah, we can go through them real quick, yeah. Yeah, this is the one from last time, it was a.
yeah, I forgot about these ones, sorry.
Yeah.
Tuesday, yeah, this was,
Yes, okay.
yeah, that's what
Yeah,
this is.
it just felt like I read this a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, this is that Saturday meeting.
Oh, Jeffrey, you're still here. Can you help raise your hand and help get that financial forum scheduled?
That's right, the chair, I think, on.
All right, so is this what we're starting with Karen's?
Oh, sorry, yeah, if you wanted, Karen were the only edits I received, so, this is the first one right here in red.
A little bit bigger, please, except for Mark, a little bit bigger. Good, thanks.
So right below that, you have Dockers instead of Dockers.
Yeah, doctor's opinion.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Pants or shoes?
Yeah. Are they still in business?
Thank you.
I'm not touching that.
Yes.
my only input on this is I think town council should be on its own next line.
I had the same edit.
Oh, actually, yeah, I'm sorry, Karen did say that too.
We agree, Karen.
Okay, that's good, right? Everyone good?
Uh-huh.
That's good. Next, please.
Okay. Next one was right here.
That's it before.
Yeah, I don't know what it said before. Is that just an addition?
It's ended at concerns from the public, so she just
Oh,
added.
added,
Oh.
okay, added, okay,
Great,
right.
great, great, great.
Agreed again. It's 2 in a
I
row.
mean, I changed it,
Two
so
in
you
a
may
row,
not
Karen.
agree to me anymore, but you know, this is why I was asking the question.
But this is what has changed too.
Right,
Yeah, so, yeah. Agreed twice on that.
all good? Next.
Okay, and last one right here. So there's a cross out for what it said and then what it changed to.
Well, Herrick disagrees, saying that Coleman disagrees.
I'm fine with that.
I did mention the shorter contract as well, but it is what it is. I don't need to put it in there.
Are we good with, this is Karen's edit or Mark's?
That's my
Because
edit.
Mark has mentioned, okay, but yeah, Mark started the sentence, okay.
You know,
All right,
I'm fine with that.
any more?
That was it.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Good.
yeah, we're good.
Move to approve the meeting minutes of February 17, 2024 as amended.
Second.
Second, Mark second, any discussion? No, all those in favor? 4-0, one more item of business,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, Karen seconded, all those in favor? 4-0. Thank you, everyone.